This is the Spoken Podcast. I am your host, Lance Twidwell, here inside the Spoken Studios with my guys, Trevor Twidwell.
What's good?
And Eddie Ortiz.
Yo.
Episode 139, full swing, full motion. We are so happy to be here with you guys on this beautiful October Saturday. We are in the dead part of, not the dead, we're dead in the middle of the NFL season. We are so excited to get these things breaking down for you guys. Not just Chiefs-related topics and news. We got a lot of stuff. I'm sure the Eddie Hour is going to have a ton of different topics for us, whether it's the MLB playoffs, the NBA season's now kicked off. We got a lot going on in the world of sports. This is by far, I don't know about you guys, but I think this is by far the best time of the year because all the sports that we care about are rolling. They're going. I mean, I think even the MLS playoffs are going on right now. It's almost, when does that start?
November.
Okay, so we're almost to the perfect part of the year, but I'll take this time of year any time of the year because of the fact that the weather's perfect. We got all the basic bitches drinks out there, which I love so much. We got bagels in my fridge. Things are going good at the Spoken Podcast. And again, regardless of your live streaming, your YouTubing, or your podcast, you want to thank you so much for being here with us. I think there's a rumor, guys, that we actually have Stan Simmons back on the show for like a fourth straight week in the message board for the Monday mailbag, which, by the way, I heard it's also packed in the Monday mailbag, so we're going to make some time for you guys today. We also have a great guest that we haven't even announced yet on our social media. We have our guy Grant Morse from Arrowhead Live that's actually going to be showing up and making an appearance today to give us some intel, give us some insight when it comes to all things Chiefs, when it comes to what took place last week in Washington and what's supposed to take place this week in Tennessee. And that's actually where I want to start right here, right now with you guys for episode 139. Last week, Trevor and I watched this game at our place, and we both felt, as you guys remember from episode 138, that this was a game that the Chiefs should win handily. This is a game that the Chiefs are going up against a team that initially I thought was going to have a really good season, and we've seen how Washington has very much struggled. And the Sean Taylor stuff aside, where they basically just try to throw that in to help with the PR status of their current situation as a franchise, The biggest issue I had with the Chiefs on the field was, once again, we were staring at a team that came shot out of the gate struggling on both sides of the field. The defense, again, looked uninspired in some regards. And again, this is actually a game where I felt the Chiefs' defense came out and played their best, but we could still see certain deficiencies downfield. We saw 3rd and 16, a -3 pass attempt from Taylor Heinicke, ends up going for 19 yards, and you saw Tyrann Mathieu absolutely lose his shit on the sidelines. You saw the Chiefs' offense, once again, having miscues. You saw Tyreek Hill, once again, drop a pass that results in an interception. You saw Patrick Mahomes, once again, for the second time this season, throw a pass that we have no idea what he was trying to do with the ball other than he was just simply pressing. And I ain't going to lie to you guys. That first half, when it was over, I sat there and I said, man, I'm really starting to wonder if this team was broken by that Super Bowl loss. Because if you guys remember, when we came into this season, I was one of the people out here that said, and I believed it very strongly, that this Chiefs team is so resilient that a loss in the Super Bowl, regardless of it affecting teams of the past, I didn't feel this was going to be a team that this was going to really affect going into the next season. Especially when you hear guys like Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes talking about how they obsessed over that frustrating loss and how they were going to do everything they could to come into this next season firing on all cylinders. And I'm sitting here at halftime against a team the Chiefs should have been beating by multiple scores, yet we're losing 13-10. I'm sitting here thinking, does this team really have it? And a guy that I haven't placed a lot of blame on this season, and I still won't place blame on this season, but a guy I needed to talk about for the first time pretty much all season, was Andy Reid. I said, these are the moments. These are the games in which your coach is supposed to get you out of it, out of the muck and the mire, get you out of that slump as a team. This is Andy Reid's time to do something. Now, I don't know what happened in the locker room at halftime. I have no idea what was said or who was it said by. All I do know is when that second half kicked off, for the first time all season, I saw a Chiefs team that I believed was there all along. And that was a Super Bowl contending Chiefs team. That second half against the Washington football team was by far the best Chiefs team we have seen since the last year's AFC Championship against the Bills when they won 38-24. That's the team we've been missing all season. And we talked about on this show that up to week 5, or up to week 6 rather, against Washington, we have not seen a team that was Super Bowl worthy. We all agreed on that, and I would be willing to bet all of you would agree with me on that as well. We haven't seen it. Yes, they came back against the Browns in that second half, and they did capitalize off mistakes, but they were still showing deficiencies. Against Washington in the second half, they gave up 76 yards total to Washington. 0 points. Washington came into that second half with 13 points, left the game with 13 points. And the Chiefs went on an absolute tear offensively. Patrick Mahomes looked like by far and away the best quarterback, the best football player in the world in that second half. And we're sitting here going, oh, this is great. But where the hell has this been? And a lot like the adjustment that we finally saw them make, which, by the way, there's no coincidence. The defense looked at absolute best the moment Dan Sorensen's playing 20% of the snaps as opposed to 100 the week previous. No coincidence to that. It's the fact that this team, why they're so frustrating to me, is the fact that they wait for weeks and weeks and weeks to finally make the adequate changes and adjustments to get better. That's always been one of my biggest concerns with this team, and we've expressed this on this show. Is that a lot of times it feels as if this team just rests on their laurels far too often. They know they're so talented. They know they have Patrick Mahomes that can get you out of any slump or any situation that seems dire or stressful. They rest on that too often. They rely on that too often. And I think for the first 5 weeks of the season, 5.5 weeks of the season, you saw this team doing just that. The Ravens game is one I always go to, where the Chiefs are going out there and moving the ball at will, but the defense plays uninspired football and couldn't stop a nosebleed. And against Washington, you saw it again. Only difference is this team knew, with the adjustments they made with Juan Thornhill, with the adjustments they made on the offense, they could finally put it together as a team. And when they did that, you saw a team that is worthy of winning a Super Bowl. And I don't want to hear anybody sit here and say, well, it was against Washington. Because as I recall just a few weeks ago, the Chiefs gave up 30 points and 461 yards to a Philadelphia Eagles team who's currently sitting 17th in total offense. So I don't want to hear that. It doesn't matter who the opponent was that week. The fact is the Chiefs finally did what they needed to do. And it gave us Chiefs fans and people that cover this team and the team as a whole hope and confidence and belief that they can do that for multiple weeks at a time. Now, I'm not expecting perfection out of this team. I'm not expecting this defense to become an elite defense because they're just not. Especially when you have guys like Frank Clark and Chris Jones in and out of the lineup. Especially when you have zero pass rush, even when those guys are on the field. What I do believe, though, is we saw something in that team that can and will show itself more often than it has to this point because they finally did it. And we know anything in sports because all three of us have played sports here, and a lot of you guys watching and listening to this have played sports yourself. Maybe still are. That when you and your team finally do something, it clicks, or it should click. And when you're a team that's been to back-to-back Super Bowls, I can only hope that that click took place. And again, we have no idea what was said or who said it during halftime. All we do know is that was a much different team that came out in that second half than came out in the first half. And I would like to believe that team's going to show itself more times than not as the rest of this schedule plays itself out. Trevor, what did you take away from the Washington game?
Man, a lot of positives. We needed that. You know, we needed Sean Wharton making plays, Frank Clark looking like a human being, like he's alive, fairly good at setting the edge. I'm almost convinced I don't want to watch Chiefs games until the second half. It's really frustrating. We're great in the second half of games. I think we're one of the, if not second highest scoring second half team in the NFL right now, especially in the third quarter. I hate that we feel like we need to make adjustments every single week just to be competent and be in these games. It's frustrating. There was no reason for us to start that first half off against this Washington team the way we did. Completely inexcusable throw by Pat, man. That was like watching Jameis Winston pre-LASIK. You know, that was like I told you and Taylor when we were watching the game here. Like it felt like I was watching my 5-year-old playing Madden. Like that's how bad it looked. It was terrible. And that's giving them a lot of credit. Yeah, I mean, Darrell Williams, man, was just hitting the gaps, looked great, doing what he needed to do, getting the job done, picking his angle and just going for it. And the guy is an absolute Mack truck, man. I love watching him run the football. He's doing what we need him to do. Kelsey out there, man, was the MVP in my mind. Just banged up, just got the whole, you can see the goal for that Washington defense was just to push him around, bully him, not let him get off the line of scrimmage, hit him, bump him at every single route. And he was getting bullied out there. He was getting hit left and right. His wrist, his I think his foot or whatever, his shoulder, everything was just getting banged up out there. And he was just out there pushing it. So I was super proud of Kelsey and he just showed his pure leadership and why he's the veteran on this team now. You know, he's become that guy. So I was super proud of him. Tyreek fighting through some injuries too, out there making plays, humping the air. It was fun to watch. Yeah, man. I mean, overall positives. This was definitely a get-right game for us, especially in that second half. 3 more turnovers, though, man. McColl's got to hold on to the damn ball, right, on these plays. Hold on to the ball. My biggest takeaway from the negatives was just too much lack of discipline on this team. I don't know if it's at practice, if Andy Reid's just not getting these guys' ass enough, which I don't really believe, because Andy Reid, from what I've always heard about him, is he's pretty heavy on the practice. He makes these guys go through the trenches. So I don't know what it is, man. I don't know if these guys are just not wanted. It's just the ball security or lack thereof is just really, really starting to frustrate me badly. Through this first quarter of this year already, we're leading the league in turnovers. I know we forced a couple ourselves, which was good to see. It was good to see this defense get a couple takeaways. That was huge, and that was the turning point of this game, really. Especially that Deshaun Wharton play. That was incredible, the way he just pinned that ball against that guy's helmet. So overall, man, positives. Not too many negatives. The positives outweighed this game, and we won by a good margin, which we needed to see that. Granted, this is not the best offense we're going against. Taylor Heineke definitely struggled, but we needed to do what we needed to do against bad teams, and we did that. So I'm proud of these guys, and we got to take that and move forward with that formula.
Man, for me, a lot of bad takeaways from that first half. That first half was just horrendous. From the offense, I gotta give the defense some credit. They were making some stops in the first half. Though the Washington did score 13 points, and they were looking a little bit efficient out there. The defense managed to make those stops, managed to make those third down stops, and get the offense back on the field. And then the offense was just like, nah, here you go, take it back, Washington. We don't want it. That Patrick Mahomes interception. Just there's no excuse for it. It's just like you said, that was just him pressing. There was really no need for it. Just take the sack at that point. At that point, just trying to get rid of the ball into the field. Just take the sack because you're risking the interception, which he did. He just literally lobbed it to the defender. You can't be doing that on games, especially when it's that close of a game. Second half, completely different team. Defense was even more solid than what it was already in the first half, just allowing 13 points. It's a Washington football team, so let's not get too carried away about this defense doing their job. Obviously, they're out there playing, I would say, an average offense, and they were able to manage to stop them and, play great. Frank Clark had a great game. So it's just, got to learn from that second half and make sure you make it consistent. Stay consistent to that level of play. Don't just come out in second halves. You got to make that consistency, throughout the whole season, not just one game, 2 games, or second half here, second half there, first half here, first half there. We need to be more consistent. Like I said, the defense, we saw the difference with Juan Thornhill. And like you said last week, don't expect Juan Thornhill to change this defense completely. It's not the all fix for this defense, but we did see a much better secondary out there. It was
more athletic.
Exactly, more athletic, more speed. So therefore, we kind of took those big plays away from Washington, even if they wanted to. The defense looked good. Offense still shaky. Still have to manage those turnovers. Those are being too crucial and too often. We can't, and we've saw that if we do those turnovers against good teams, they're gonna take advantage and punish us for those mistakes. So we gotta make sure we are more composed and make hold the ball better. Tyreek Hill with the interception. It's off your. It
2 straight weeks, man.
It hit both your hands. I would understand if it was a bad throw from Patrick Mahomes, but it was like a more perfect throw couldn't be even So they need to work on discipline, like Trevor said. I think as the weeks go on, I think this team will have better discipline. I think they've learned that in the first 6 weeks that if like I said, if you mess up, other good teams are gonna punish you and take advantage of that. So I hope this consistency stays, and I don't hope I hope it's not just a second half thing.
Something else that happened during this game that I felt very interesting was also the Chiefs had an extremely balanced attack on offense, which I really did like. They ran the ball 28 times in this game, which is very un-Andy Reid like. He usually has anywhere from 16 to 22 rushes a game. A lot of throws, and Patrick did throw the ball 47 times, but I think that's a testament to how much this Chiefs offense dominated time of possession in this game, and were able to do whatever they wanted. And it's so puzzling that we're still sitting here almost halfway through the season. We're over a third into the season now, where we're still talking about the offense struggling in the way that they are, yet they're still scoring unlike anybody else in the league right now as far as points per possession. It's unbelievable how bored Tommy Townsend's got to be right now as the Chiefs punter, because
we finally punted. We got a punt out there.
I mean, he's punted
He
less
was
than
terrible.
He's punted less than
That
10
fucking
times
punt
in
was
this season.
terrible.
He's rusty, man.
Six weeks into the season, 6 games into the season, he's punted less than 10 times. I mean, that's unbelievably great from the Chiefs. And so I don't want to oversimplify this situation the Chiefs have when it comes to the turnovers. But we all know, at least to this point, we're confident that they're not going to continue to struggle like this, which means what? If they're already averaging 31, 32 points a game with these struggles, give them extra possessions of a different result where it's not a turnover, it's, we got a field goal. Like, even the lowest margin of, we got a field goal out of it. You're talking about a team that's going to average 37, 38 points a game, which isn't too crazy because with Kareem Hunt in those first 10, 11 games of 2018, that's exactly what the Chiefs are averaging.
14 turnovers in 6 weeks, man.
That's inexcusable.
That's why when we watched that game, that's why when I saw we got that third turnover in the game when Pat threw that pick, I said it out loud, like, we are a turnover-prone team. This is now a trend. This isn't something that's just going to go away.
So
this is something
what you guys do believe?
This is something we have to fix.
Is this something that you guys think the Chiefs will legitimately deal with throughout the season, or is this something that, man, before that bye week they really struggled with turnovers?
This was like just a couple games, yeah, sure. This is six weeks now. We have multiple turnovers every single game.
Yeah.
2 with 4 each. That's unacceptable. And then another 3 turnover game against Washington.
I'll say this real quick. The reason why I'm not concerned about it being an actual, it's in their DNA is because, first of all, it's never been in Patrick Mahomes' DNA. Second of all, it isn't like Patrick Mahomes is throwing horrible, first down throws that are just terrible throws. Yeah. It's on 3rd and longs. It's on a play where he knows I got to make a play right here, and he throws it up in the air.
Yeah.
Stuff. It's desperation plays we're seeing this on. And on the other side of it, it's Tyreek Hill dropping passes that he never drops.
But it's
back-to-back
weeks. We're doing it in a bunch of different ways. Clyde was fumbling. McCole fumbled. Yeah. It's like the whole team just seems undisciplined. That's why discipline is my key thing here. Ball security, it's the first thing you learn in football as an offensive player. Ball security. Yeah. You can't give the ball back to the other team. That's the goal. Is scoring and don't turn it over. Those are the 2 objectives you have that you have to keep in your head throughout the game, and we're just failing at it.
I just think it will get better as the season goes on. I don't think it's going to be an easy
fix. Can't get much worse, man.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be an easy fix. I do think it's going to take some time. I do think maybe after the bye week, we will see those turnovers starting to fade away and kind of something that we kind of talk not every weekend, but every so often. But I do think those turnovers will slowly go away.
I think that should change this coming week against the Titans, and we'll get to that.
Well,
I think that's a good game to
there's
fix
another
that.
There's another part of the offense I do want to address as well is Darrell Williams. He did have a good game. He actually had 21 of the 28 rushes in this game. He had only 62 yards, which means he was getting about 3 yards a carry, but he did get two touchdowns in the red zone. There's now a debate going on Chiefs Twitter about, well, Clyde Edwards-Helaire couldn't do what Darrell does, and although I don't disagree with that because Darrell's a bigger, more physical specimen when it comes to the running back position, we have to still remember that he did average 3 yards per carry in this game. It's not like he was out there just Dearness Johnsoning the Washington football team defense. He wasn't out there getting 148 yards, 7 yards a clip. We have to contextualize some things. I think Clyde is catching a lot of strays that I don't think he deserves. Am I sitting here saying that Darrell Williams doesn't present something that Clyde doesn't? Yes, I do believe he does. That Darrell does provide physicality that Clyde doesn't have because he's an undersized back. But I think it's ridiculous that we're sitting here and pretending as if Clyde hasn't been effective this season. Has he had a couple fumbles? Yes, he has. But Tyreek Hill's also had a lot of drops, and we can't sit here and justify one and not the other. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been a very effective running back this season. Has he been what we expected him to be out the gate as a first-round pick? No. But that to me isn't an end all be all where he hasn't been that good through 20 games. Which, by the way, I don't know if you guys saw the numbers I had posted through 20 games. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has had a better career to this point than Thurman, Thomas, Priest Holmes, and Jamal Charles. So you can sit here and nitpick him all you want. The fact is, through 20 games, he's been better than 3 guys that probably should be in the Hall of Fame, and one of them already is. So I think that we're getting a little ahead of ourselves here. We can praise Darrell Williams for what he did and what he's done, but we don't need to be sitting here and talking about Clyde Edwards-Helaire as if he's been some anchor to the Chiefs' offense by some crazy means. Because if anything, he's been the opposite of that. Just like Mecole Hardman, a lot of people like to shit on him and say that he had a fumble, so therefore he's shit. Guys, you have to look at what Mecole Hardman's doing for this offense. He's been getting a lot of possession receptions where he's getting these 8-9 yards the Chiefs need. Because we know Tyreek Hill's a big play guy. Travis Kelce's a big play guy. We assume that Mecole Hardman's supposed to be a big play guy. But he's doing what everyone's anticipating Josh Gordon to be doing. Getting 8-9 yards a catch. That's what we need out of a guy like Mecole Hardman. That's what he's given us. Not to mention the fact he had a 46-yard reception in this game against Washington. So I'm deciding, and you guys can decide how you want to handle it yourselves, but I'm deciding through this part of the season, I'm going to give positive feedback to guys like Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Mecole Hardman because I think they've been more of a net positive than net negative for this offense. Real quick, just give me some quick thoughts on those two guys in particular.
I think those arguments are ridiculous. I don't even understand why we're comparing Clyde to. I mean, I was jokingly saying throughout the game last week that Darrell, the better back. I don't think he's the better back. Obviously, Clyde's the more talented guy. Only problem I've had since we've had Clyde is the way we utilize him. We don't utilize him to his strengths. That's my biggest grief. My biggest problem with Clyde's obviously going to put up numbers in this offense. He's the more talented back. But I do like how Darrell's being used because we're utilizing Darrell to his strengths. He's a good red zone running back, a bruiser, and he's a good guy, picking his spot and just going for it. Clyde's the more agile, scat back type running back, and we're not really utilizing him to his strengths. That's what pisses me off the most because I know he's more talented than Darrell. He obviously has way more in his bag of tricks. He's more of a home run hitter than Darrell is. Darrell's is that bruiser that you just give it to him. He'll get you 3-4 at a time and then bang his way into the end zone when you're within the 10. That's the kind of guy I like for this team right now, and he was doing his job and he was very efficient. Two rushing touchdowns. It's been a minute since we've seen 2 rushing touchdowns in this offense, so I like seeing that, and it keeps the defense is honest that we face. That's what I like that Darrell brought to this offense. Clyde is obviously more of a home run hitter guy. You get him in those dink and dunks, which we just haven't utilized yet. I expect to see that moving forward, hopefully. But comparing the two is just stupid because they're 2 totally different type of running backs. And then Mecole's, I love that guy. I don't know how you don't like that guy, what he's been doing for this offense. He's been doing his job. He's been doing what he's asked to do. I think he will get some more deep looks. I think he will become that guy as the season goes on with the addition of Josh Gordon because I think Josh Gordon will become that possession guy. He's the get up and get it guy, tough to defend. He's this size and speed combination. So I think we're going to see a lot of it's been some strange growing pains for this offense for some reason. I don't know what the deal is exactly, but we've been in a funk, and once we get out of it, the league's in trouble.
Yeah, I like Darrell Williams for the red zone. Give me Darrell Williams for the red zone because Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he's not
too indecisive.
Yeah, too indecisive. We saw Darrell Williams in one of the touchdowns. He broke to the right, but then he saw that there was no hole, and he saw the hole to the left. So he just kind of he broke to the left and then just went in like it was nothing. And I think Clyde struggles with finding that hole in that red zone, and Darrell being that power guy, being that guy that just wants that contact, fucking bulldoze people into the end zone. I think that's the people we need in the end zone. After the 20-yard, take Clyde out, put Darrell in, get you those yards, and because then like that you won't have double coverage with Tyreek, or they'll leave somebody open with either Kelce or Tyreek, and you'll have those options, and then because then you'll be like, oh shit, they got the running game. It's like fuck, now we got to worry about the running game and two of the best receiving options for the Chiefs. Yeah. So I think at the red zone, I think the Chiefs should stick to Darrell. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong, but Darrell was much better.
He's better between the tackles, that's for sure. He's better picking the gap and hitting it.
Exactly.
Clyde's got to get utilized in the passing game though.
Yeah.
Go watch his tape at LSU.
No, like
man,
you said, I think Clyde's more of a home run kind of guy, and they're not utilizing to his strengths. And I think Darrell Williams, they're using to what he is built for. And I think that's why we're seeing a lot of fans overreact to what he did last.
Yeah,
last week.
He's not better than
overreact's
Clyde,
the correct word
They're better at
because
different things.
they can be complementary to their strengths.
Absolutely.
We've seen
That's
so
what I
many
wanna see.
teams,
Yeah.
so many teams that have running backs that have their own strengths and weaknesses, and teams that know what those strengths and weaknesses are can utilize those guys effectively and the way they're supposed to be. Whereas
It's
Clyde's-
similar to the Browns.
Clyde,
The
yes,
way they
Clyde
run it.
needs to be more of a pass option running back.
Yeah.
He needs to be what Jerick McKinnon. A lot of people believe Jerick McKinnon is. I think Clyde McKinnon are more alike than Clyde
Yes,
and Darrell are. I
absolutely.
think Darrell is more of a, like Trevor said, between the tackles, get those 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2 type of yards,
Yep.
let it bully in, and that's actually. And I'm not going to get ahead of myself here, but that's actually a matchup I'm really looking forward to seeing in this Titans game. Is Darrell Williams out in the flat, out in the open against some of these secondary guys in the Titans who are already small and undersized, who don't like making big tackles like that. I would like to see a lot of that too, but. In this instance, I would like to see Clyde being utilized more as a receiving option player because that's also going to alleviate a lot of the coverage that Tyreek and Travis see, like we've talked about in the past. That's only going to add versatility to this offense because, to be honest, as much as good as Kareem Hunt was at running the ball here in Kansas City, he led the league in rushing in 2017. He was equally as effective in the pass game. And you saw how unstoppable this Chiefs offense was in games where Kareem was out there in the flat, getting passes, going 7-8 yards a clip. It opened up so much down the field for Tyreek and Travis Kelce. That's what they need to do with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Now, one more thing before we move on from the Washington football game. I have to point out my guy, Mike Dana. Mike Dana has been by far, I think
was
right
hoping you'd
now,
bring him up, yeah.
Tyrann Mathieu is obviously an all-pro. He's always going to be an all-pro. He's like the Salvi of the Chiefs, where you just know what he's going to be each and every season, especially defensively when it comes to Tyrann Mathieu. But Mike Dana, to this point, guys, I don't think it's crazy to say he's been the best overall defender on the Chiefs right now, just based on effectiveness. He's got 3.5 sacks this season. That doesn't seem like a lot, but when you consider the fact that he's got almost essentially 50% of the Chiefs' sacks this season, when you have two guys in Chris Jones and Frank Clark that are making $180 million,
Hey, Frank Clark should have had a sack.
just saying.
I don't know how the hell Heineke stayed up on that play.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
All
That
I'm
was
saying is-
I thought it was a sack, to be honest.
Frank
On the
Clark got
result side
there,
of things,
too.
on the result
Yeah.
side of things, Mike Dana has overperformed.
Yeah. He
No
was
one
great.
was expecting this from a fifth-round
Fifth
flyer
round
out of
pick, yeah.
Michigan. No one was expecting this. And this guy, just in year 2, is already taking care of business, especially when you talk about the fact that he has no real help to this point of the season. Now, can the Chiefs get better at rushing the quarterback because of the fact that Frank Clark and Chris Jones seemingly are getting healthier and will finally be on the field healthy? I think it's the first time since the Browns game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
We're finally going to see those guys together, but we cannot ignore or downplay what Mike Dana has done to this point.
Yeah, and to add to that, I don't know why Chiefs fans are criticizing Tyrann Mathieu. What, like, where is that coming
We
from?
fucking needed that. That's what when we talking about the sideline antics. Where he,
No,
like,
no,
throwing his helmet
like
and shit?
no. Like when he missed the sack.
Oh.
A lot of Chiefs fans went to Twitter to fucking talk so much
Look,
shit
I'll
to
say this.
Tyrann Mathieu.
Tyrann Mathieu is an easy target because Tyrann Mathieu's vocal. And when you're vocal on a bad defense, a lot of times people sit here and shit talk you back because you're the one that's willing to talk about things. Like, people don't remember Alex Smith and how no one ever wanted to openly criticize, and guys like me and Clay Windler, whenever we did, they shit on us. It's because why? Alex was a quiet, very nice guy. He didn't really ever ruffle any feathers. But imagine Alex Smith talking like Tyrann Mathieu on social media and then had struggles.
Yeah.
He would get shit on by a lot of people. That's the difference. It all comes down to personality. If you're a real nice guy that never upsets anybody and just kind of stays in the middle like an Alex Smith, you're never going to have people talking shit on you. And when you have people talking shit on you, it's about your performance on the field, not you. People talk about Tyrann Mathieu because he's an outward passion alpha male type. And those are the types of guys that people like to go at.
Well, yeah, we can't count the hits and ignore the miss, or count the misses and ignore the hits too.
They're
Like
also
that.
the same guys that people will kiss their ass on
Right.
Twitter when they're out there balling and
Yeah,
the
exactly.
team's clicking.
When he was in that Baltimore game,
You
he
see
started
that
off the
too,
game with
don't
2
you?
picks. Everyone's like, "Oh my god!" You know what I mean? So like, I just that, and I want to talk about L'Jarius Sneed too, man. That awareness on that fumble.
Yes.
Dude, that was such a great play. We forced the fumble on the running back there in Washington, and he's seen it the whole way. He ran in there and got the football. L'Jarius Sneed has been so damn good, man. Like he's.
You know how we know
every
he's
week-
good? We ain't hearing about it.
Exactly.
When a corner ain't getting a lot of talk during the game, that means that dude's balling.
Yeah, man. So I was super proud of him. I was super proud of this defense overall for the most part. I think everybody out there just outside. There was only, like I said, there was only one really bad play, that Blum play to Ricky Seals-Jones. That was the only, like, it literally, like, I don't know what happened on that play. That was insane. But outside of that, the defense was nails, man. They were absolutely, and that's been an offense, not a great offense, but that's been an offense that's had some performances against some good defenses and put up points. For us to only allow 13 points, man, I'll take it. I don't care who it is.
And like I said last week, I think this game was going to be a turnaround point for the Chiefs. I think this game was going to be that game that kind of gave them that boost that they need, that defense
Enough
that they
is
need.
enough.
Exactly.
That's been the word.
I think, and I said it last week, and the defense came out pretty good since the first half. Yeah, they had missing skews in and there, but the offense mistakes overshadow anything the defense was doing wrong. The first half, the defense made stops to where they made Washington punt the ball, and the Chiefs gave the ball right back. We gotta start giving the credit to that defense little by little, and I think against the Bills they did some of that work. We saw it in the second half, to where they were able to slow down Josh Allen, and then the Chiefs didn't capitalize on that. They were able to stop him, I believe, twice.
Yeah.
And so
We turned it over.
Exactly, and we turned it over.
The issue with the Bills game, the only thing I'm going to say that's different between that and the Washington game is obviously the fact that you're talking about the Chiefs' defense gave up 24 points in the first half against the Bills. So I get it. At the end of the game, they started to put it together a little bit, but at that point, the game was kind of already decided. So I can't really put praise on the Chiefs' defense because they were the ones that actually made the game kind of out of reach before Patrick Mahomes and the offense really clicked. Did the Chiefs' offense click in that game? No, they didn't. My point, though, is there wasn't any complimentary football going on at all, pretty much throughout the entire season, outside of the second half against the Browns, in particular in the third quarter, and then the entire second half. Because, look, again, I have to emphasize this. Against Washington, everyone talks about, oh, that's the Washington football team, so that isn't a lot to take away from that. I disagree. Because going into that game, Washington football team was scoring almost 26 points a game. Mm-hmm. And the Chiefs cut that in half for the entirety of that second. They gave up less than 100 yards in that second half.
Yeah, and Terry McLaurin got his ass shut down. That's an elite receiver right there. Terry McLaurin is 100% an elite receiver in this league at this point. So, and he's been putting up numbers against good defenses. So I think we put the clamps on him. I think he only had like 4 catches for like 50-something yards. We put the clamps on him, and that's a legitimate guy. That's week in, week out. Just from my fantasy outlook, I've just having him on a couple of my fantasy teams. I know that what that guy does and what he's capable of.
Again, the biggest part we have to take away from this is, yes, it was against Washington, but the Chiefs also didn't have 2 of their best pass rushers in this. I'm sorry, they had Frank Clark, but they didn't have Chris Jones. And if you have Chris Jones there and you're cutting a team's scoring average in half, we can sit here and say, well, okay, you're fully loaded. But Willie Gay barely played it all in this game, too. That's something we have to remember in these games, guys, is that although you're facing inferior teams, if you're still going out there getting it done, despite the fact you're missing your best defender and your most athletic linebacker, and Anthony Hitchens get hurt in the middle of the game, you're talking about you also having deficiencies as well. Granted, Washington did not have like half their offensive line. Brandon Scherf didn't play. They were missing a tackle. They had injured players in the skills positions, and they have Taylor Heinicke, who's not a great quarterback.
Well,
having said that, though, you have a defense out there that has been struggling all season and has injuries, and you're still going out there and doing what they did in that second half.
We thought that it was going to be a get-right game in Philly for the defense, and they gave up almost 30 points, right? So that Philly team is very comparable to this Washington team. They're fairly similar. I think this Washington team actually has more talent offensively. Granted, I think the quarterback, Jalen Hurts is better than Heinicke, but it hasn't been that much different. He's a little bit more mobile than Heinicke, obviously. But these two teams are very similar, and we only allowed 13 points this time around, and then the Philly we allowed damn near 30. So, yeah, I mean, this is definitely you got to take it as a positive. You can't take that as a negative. Our defense was performing outside of that one broken play, that touchdown play, which was the only touchdown we allowed all day. We allowed 1 touchdown. I am with that 100%. I don't care who we're playing. If we're allowing 1 touchdown, we're going to win 10 times out of 10 if we only allow 1 touchdown. Yeah. And you have Pat playing on the other side. And
folks are talking about the Tyrann Mathieu stuff on the sidelines, and I'll address that directly as well because I know you kind of brought it up about why Chiefs fans like to come at him, especially on social media. One, again, he's not afraid to speak his mind. And on the sideline thing, a lot of folks take that as, oh, that's a detriment, or he's being a baby. It's so funny how different people look at that when Tom Brady does it. Isn't that hilarious how that works? Like, remember guys like
a lot of the greats have done that
shit. Remember, like, when Odell and Dez would do that, people were like, oh, selfish players, divas. Yeah, just divas. But then they get them mic'd up, and they're, like, getting their team geared up. Let's go, we can do this. Like, that's what Travis Kelce doing.
We loved when Travis Kelce did it.
It's funny. Tyrann Mathieu's out here doing the same thing Tom Brady does, and we sit there and view it 2 different ways. Yeah. It's just funny how that works.
Yeah, it's biased.
Would you rather Tyrann Mathieu be more, and I'm not trying to call out Eric Berry, but would you rather him be more like Eric Berry, where he just acts like he's just disinterested, my spirit's not into it any longer? Would you rather him be like that?
Especially on defense, I love the fight dudes. They're throwing their helmets and
you
fucking cussing their guys out. If it's an offense, if it's Tyreek's out there like getting a pass, that's one thing. You don't really necessarily need that. We need balanced heads on offense. You don't need to play angry offensively. You need to play fucking angry defensively. You need to go hit people. And that's what they've been. And then we saw, man, on that field defensively, we saw these guys out there willing to sacrifice their bodies and make plays. And that's what we got to see moving forward.
All right, boys and girls, we're really excited for this next guest that we have on today. We like to say that we get some pretty damn good guests, but this is one I've been very much looking forward to because I respect this guy's content. I respect their content as whole. This is the owner, the president, whatever title you want to give this man, you can give it to him.
The Prez.
My guy from Arrowhead Live, the one, the only, Mr. Grant Morse. How we doing today, Mr. Grant?
Doing all right.
And I cannot hear Grant. Is he there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up, Grant?
I'm doing all right, man. How are you guys?
We're doing great, man. We're really glad you're here with us today. It's a beautiful Saturday. We are here talking some Chiefs football. We just broke down our thoughts, our takes on the Washington football game. And I actually want to start right there with you because I know and I've seen a lot of your takes, your tweets about this game in particular. And I know that you probably felt the same way I did. That first half, that second half, you want to talk about a tale of two different halves, man. Just from the overview of this game, from your point of view, you know the first half was more of a representation of what this season has been for the Chiefs to this point. But that second half showed us everything that we have known over the last 2 to 3 years of what this team can and will do when they get it all together. And I think there's no coincidence that the Juan Thornhill adjustment, bringing him into the game and subbing out Sorensen essentially for Juan Thornhill, I think that made a humongous change. I think that made a humongous difference. But I think that this offense finally felt a little confident, a little more comfortable in that second half that they can go out there and do what they needed to do. And when you saw this team click on all cylinders, they looked like a Super Bowl team once again. What was your overall takeaway from this game against the Washington football team?
Yeah, I mean, the first half started out pretty shaky. We had the turnover issues again on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, even in the first half, I still think our defense played okay. We gave up a few catches to Ricky Seals-Jones, which was interesting because he couldn't even get on the field for us last year, and then he comes out and just dominates us for most of the game. But in the second half, obviously, we picked things up, and defense looked great. With that being said, you know, we were playing Taylor Heineke, and Washington was playing a little banged up, so I'm taking it with a grain of salt. But I did see a lot of encouraging factors from the defense. I think the Juan Thornhill transition, like you suggested, was a huge positive, and I think our pass defense at the very least looked much better. And I actually think the move helped our run defense as well because they're able to put Daniel Sorensen in a position where he can actually succeed, playing inside the box while Juan Thornhill's back there at free safety. And then also allows Tyrann Mathieu to move around a little bit more than he was during this season. I think I tweeted this a while back, but I think this is the most Tyrann Mathieu has played free safety alone in the past 3 or 4 years of his career. So it's kind of interesting. He was playing, about 25% free safety here and there over the past 3 or 4 years, and then he comes in to 2021 and he's playing, 50%, which it just didn't make much sense why the situation with Juan Thornhill, and I'm not sure what happened there, but I guess they got it figured out, and hopefully moving forward that is the case instead of, Spagnuolo's comments last week or this week saying, that Sorensen's just in a slump. So I think Sorensen is in his correct role right now, and I think Juan Thornhill has, earned his place back in his normal role.
And when you talk about the correct role or the right role for a player, you and I have somewhat seen eye to eye when it comes to Chris Jones. I was very much open-minded to the idea that they try him at defensive end because I know that's where he wanted to play. And the Chiefs, quite frankly, needed an elite type of pass rusher on the outside. But it hasn't worked to this point. And I think that we now know that the Jarran Reed experiments, a lot of these other experiments that they try to have down the middle have not worked. So therefore, you need to adjust and you need to put Chris Jones down the middle of the defense. How much of a difference do you think that's going to make once the Chiefs ultimately decide to do that, hopefully by this week?
I think it'd be a good idea to kind of maintain the flexibility with Chris Jones. If they want to put him outside on the edge, if he has a good matchup here and there, maybe play 25, 30% of the snaps on the edge this season, I don't have a problem with that. But playing over 90% on the edge, when it's pretty clear that Chris Jones And it's not a knock on Chris Jones. It's just what his skill set is. He just doesn't have the lateral quickness to play on the edge. He can't. Whenever teams are have a run play outside the tackle, it's clear that Chris Jones can't keep up with the running back whenever he bounces it outside. It's just little things like that I don't think defensive end is the best role for Chris Jones. And hopefully whenever they move him back inside, it's also going to help with guys like Derek Nottie and Jaron Reed as well. It'll be interesting to see, how they mix up that interior defensive line moving forward. But I would have to think personally that the threat of having Chris Jones next to Jaron Reed is going to give Jaron Reed a little boost and take a little bit of pressure off of him with what opposing O-lines are giving him.
Frank Clark has been back. It looks like he's going to continue to play down the stretch, hopefully healthy. But we can't sit here and pretend as if Frank Clark has been anything close to what we've hoped him to be to this point. Outside of that 3-game stretch in the 2019 playoff run, Frank Clark has been a disappointment. Now, it's more than likely going to be the last season Frank Clark is as a Chief. What are your expectations moving forward with Frank Clark? Do you expect him to finally turn it back on and be that guy that we expected him to be when the Chiefs traded for him 2 seasons ago?
Probably not. At this point, I think Frank is what he is, and it's unfortunate the way that his career in Kansas City has gone, because he got here, and he did show a little bit of what he showed in Seattle, and then he popped up with some injury issues, and then the gastrointestinal stuff hit, where he missed multiple games, missed weeks of practice with these stomach issues, and you clearly saw his weight fluctuate. I was told that he was down to 250 to 245 to 250 at one point, and then worked his way all the way back up to, I think, 280 or 285 for this season. And you can definitely tell that he's gained a significant amount of weight if you go back and look at some pictures. And I think that had a huge impact on how he played here. With that being said, you watch the games and it doesn't look like he's giving his best effort. And I don't want to sit here and say that, he's just not out. He's out there just not trying. But, there is something going on, and it's pretty obvious that, whether it's injuries or whatever it is, it just hasn't worked out for Frank here in Kansas City. And I do believe that it'll be his last year. I can't imagine them, keeping that cap hit next year, which I believe is the 7th highest of any player in the league, which in my opinion is just insane. The highest non-quarterback in the league. They can't carry that contract, and I'd be pretty shocked if they hung on to him beyond this season.
Through 5 weeks of this season, the Chiefs' defense has been arguably the worst defense we maybe have ever seen. They were giving up over 3 points per possession to their opposing offense. They haven't given up less than 29 points all season in a game, and they were giving up 7.6 yards per play. And then you saw them make some differences in that game, as we talked about, where there's some adjustments were made. You saw them play better as a collective. I don't think this defense is going to be as bad as they looked, but I don't think they're ever going to be as good as we thought they were going to be out the gate. Grant, where do you see this defense ending up this season? Is it going to be a defense good enough to help the Chiefs make a deep push in the playoffs, or do you think that they just are what they are and we just have to accept that for this season?
You guys have seen me. I've been pretty critical of the defense. That's no secret. I think a lot of it comes. There's this belief that it's the talent that we have on the field, but we saw almost this identical football team last year be a top 20, top 18 defense in the league. Especially, they improved substantially against the pass. The red zone defense was the biggest issue, and apparently that's what their main focus was going into this year, was to fix the red zone defense, and we haven't really seen that happen. But we know that this defense isn't the worst defense in the history of football, because we saw almost this identical team, put together a top 18 season. And so I don't think they're the 32nd ranked. I don't think they're the 31st ranked. They've dealt with some injuries. They'll get Chris Jones back. They'll get Travarius Ward back. Say what you want about Travarius Ward, but he's our best corner, at least our best outside corner. I think Snead is best suited in the slot, but that's kind of beside the point. We're getting some guys back from injury, and hopefully they start to gel and figure this thing out. If they continue playing at what they're playing at now, or what they played at the first 6 weeks, I don't think that this is a team that could win the Super Bowl. However, I think that if they can find themselves, outside of the bottom 6 to 8 defenses in the league and find themselves in that 20 to 25 range, I think they'll be perfectly fine. And that'll basically be what it was last year and the year before. So I'm comfortable with it. I think that they're going to improve. I think we've already seen small signs that they are improving. And moving forward, we still have the trade deadline. I wouldn't rule out Brett Veach swinging for the fences there, maybe a defensive end, linebacker, DB. I'm not sure what he would target. My guess would be defensive end. We'll have to see there. But if he does target someone, I think it's going to be someone that can make an immediate impact on this defense and potentially start for us beyond this season.
My co-host Eddie here was talking about, he asked a question about why a lot of Chiefs fans go at Tyrann Mathieu a lot. And I have the stance, I have the take that when you're a vocal leader, a passionate leader, you're going to get a lot of praise and criticism. Guys like Alex Smith, who was a quiet leader, guys like Eric Berry, who don't really ruffle feathers, you're not going to get a lot of open criticism from those guys, at least on social media. But when guys like Tyrann Mathieu are doing what they're doing on social media and they're doing things like that they do on the sidelines, you're going to see a lot of people having a strong opinion on guys like Tyrann Mathieu. Now, I know you've been a very big defender of Tyrann. I know you saw the tweet about how he's not going anywhere when a guy on Twitter was talking about, you need to get out of KC. He's sitting here saying, you're going to have to get me out of here. You're going to have to bring the Navy. You're going to bring all these military branches out to get me out of here. Right. To me, that was a really good sign because I know there's been a lot of speculation about what Tyrann Mathieu's future in Kansas City is going to be. Now, that doesn't really mean anything in the big picture, but to see his mindset, to know that his mindset is that he is here, he has staked his flag in the ground of Kansas City, that he wants to be the landlord for years to come. I felt that was a good sign. What are your overall takeaways with the current status of Tyrann Mathieu with the Chiefs?
So like I said, whenever we started out here, Tyrann Mathieu's been playing a different role this season, at least up until last week, than he's been playing all year long. He's been playing way more free safety, and they haven't really utilized that versatility that we've come to know with Tyrann Mathieu. I think it has to do with the scheme and has to do with the coaching decisions that have been made thus far in the season. And I think Juan Thornhill being back is going to allow Tyrann Mathieu to play that role that, we've come to know him playing here in Kansas City. And that's basically a role where you can stick him anywhere in the defense and he's going to go out and make plays. With that being said, I personally think Tyrann Mathieu could be better than what he's been this year. We've seen him be better than what he's been this year. But in the same breath, I think it has a lot to do with the decisions that have been made on the defensive side of the football. And they haven't really put their guys in the best position to succeed. And kind of speaking beyond this season, I would personally love to see Tyrann Mathieu re-signed. He is 29 years old, and I think you've got to be cautious of what you do with him. However, I think that a 3-year deal, something like that, in the close to the range of like 16 to 18 million, somewhere where Jamal Adam was. I don't think that Tyrann Mathieu is going to end up being the highest paid safety in the league. I can't imagine him, asking for that at his age, and given his injury history and whatnot. But I do think he deserves to be right up there at the top of the highest paid safeties in the league, and hopefully it's here in Kansas City. If not, I wish him all the best. But I would love to see him stay, and I think he can help build this defense like he made mention of in that tweet that you referenced.
When it comes to the offensive side of things, I don't think, even though the offensive line has gotten plenty of attention in the offseason and during this season, I don't think they've gotten enough praise. I actually think the offensive line has been spectacular, especially from the younger guys. And when we talk about Brett Veach's legacy to this point of his career as the Chiefs GM, we talk about his draft picks and how questionable they've been for the first few seasons. He hasn't gotten a lot of stars and studs in his draft picks, but we do see him go and get these late flyers that end up blossoming to be something that's been pretty special to this point. We talk about L'Jarius Sneed. Mike Dan has really become a man of his own. We talked about some of these guys that have been shocks, guys that shocked us, but Trey Smith has been absolutely fantastic, one of the best guards in football to this point. Creed Humphrey may be the best center in football already. So I think this current draft class that Brett Veach just got for the Chiefs has been far and away his best draft class to date. Does this draft class give you confidence that Brett Veach is going to start building this team better through the draft? Because we know that that's what's going to have to happen over these next couple seasons, because they're not going to be able to resign everybody. They're going to have to really start getting guys younger and cheaper in the draft. Do you have confidence, especially after this recent draft class?
I do. I mean, I trust them, and I think that they're going to make everything work. And I kind of equate it back to how the Patriots drafted, whenever they were, winning every year, and they were in that 30 to 32 range, picking every season. They never really came away with studs early in the draft, if you remember. They always had those round 4, round 3, round 5 guys that came out and were great contributors that they ultimately let walk. For example, a guy like Trey Flowers that signed with Detroit at, 17, 18 million a year. That's a guy that they drafted. I don't recall it being very high, maybe 3rd round. And the dude turned out great, and then they let him walk. And I think that's kind of where we're at as a franchise right now. We know that Brett Veach isn't going to be picking in the top 18 or 15 in the draft, where it's easier to find those, those studs and those easy options. But whenever you're picking at 30, 32, those are spots where you have to take risks, and you've got to do things. You've got to swing for the fences and, take those boomer bust guys, in my opinion, especially now that they have that 5th-year option and you can do things like that. With that being said, Brett's drafts in the middle of the draft, 2018 was not good. Obviously, that was the Breland Speaks year. Dorian O'Daniel, Armani Watts. Derek Nottie turned out great. I think he started a ton of football games for us, and he's been a solid nose tackle for us. But outside of that, in the 2018 draft was pretty terrible. And then you look at 2019 and 2020, that's Clyde, McCole, Juan Thornhill. I think that those 2 drafts are much better than people give them credit for. I know Clyde hasn't exactly lived up to expectations, and McCole probably isn't what we'd like him to be. But I personally think this is McCole's best season. I think we've seen glimpses of what Juan Thornhill can be. I mean, his first season in the league, we thought that he was a borderline Pro Bowl / All-Pro player, and we thought that he was going to develop into that. And then he tore up his knee, which was unfortunate, but those are things that you can't predict. I mean, if Juan Thornhill doesn't tear up his knee and, Clyde doesn't get hurt his hip his rookie year, what are we looking at right now? I mean, those guys could be much better. And whenever you're drafting guys, those are just things that you can't predict. But then there's bad picks like, Breland Speaks or whatever. But, I think overall, Brett Veach gets way too much flack for his drafts. I don't think that people are giving him a fair shake there. And they're sitting here comparing him to John Dorsey, who drafted in the top 15 and drafted in the top 20, year after year. It's much easier to draft and draft successfully whenever you have picks that high in the draft.
That's actually a very fair point. I'm gonna give you points on that one, Grant, because I never really looked at it like that. But now that you bring that up, that's actually a very fair thing to say, a very fair comparison when we're comparing the two. Just a couple more questions for you, and we're gonna get you out of here. We really do appreciate your time for being here with us, man, because I know your schedule is full. But I got to get these questions out, man. I gotta know, because the Chiefs are now going against the Titans, which I think are one of the better matchups, if not the best matchup, negatively for the Chiefs on the defensive side, because we know that I like to call him Derek John Henry, because this dude is just a specimen. He's a unit. He's not human. I think we've all clarified that and agreed on that to this point. And he has done some damage against the Chiefs in the past, but we did see a couple seasons ago this Chiefs defense did tighten up on him. They allowed, I think, 69, 71 yards on the ground against Derrick Henry. Right. I'm not expecting that in this matchup, just to clarify that. But I think the Chiefs' defense is going to be as focused as they have ever been this season against a certain individual opponent. And when it comes to the Chiefs' offensive side of things, I know you tweeted out this week about Darrell Williams and how he did play well against Washington, but he also only averaged 3 yards a carry. Now, I would like to see the Chiefs utilize him a little bit in the passing game this week, because we know that their secondary in Tennessee is very banged up, and they're going to really struggle with tackling. They're going to have a lot of problems with big physical guys on the Chiefs side of things. I would like to see them use Darrell in that regard. And also, when it comes to Patrick Mahomes, It's so funny, Grant, because I know you feel this way too. I've seen you tweet about this whole, the league has figured him out and he's regressing and maybe he's not as great as we thought he was, and all these narratives that are just spiraling out of control from the national media to even some local media in Kansas City. It's funny because if a pace for 5,355 passing yards, 527 rushing yards, and 54 total touchdowns is considered the league having Patrick Mahomes figured out, then the league has figured out that they can't figure out Patrick Mahomes. What are your thoughts on those narratives as a whole?
It's ridiculous. I mean, 5 or 6 of his interceptions can be chalked up to stupid accidents, like the balls being tipped. Marcus Kemp, Tyreek Hill twice, the one by the tip defensive end. The only real stupid interceptions that Mahomes has thrown this year was the one against Tennessee where he threw it and he was falling down. He just threw it up in the air. In my opinion, that's the only true bad decision that he's made. The one to Travis Kelce, it was third down, and it was the same thing as a punt essentially, and Mahomes knew that. So, I mean, if you're going to sit here and say, Mahomes is regressing because he's got 8 interceptions, that's looking at football with no context. And in my opinion, I mean, that's just what fans of other teams are going to do. People that aren't actually watching the Chiefs are going to do. But if you watch Patrick Mahomes and you watch this team, you know that that's just not the case. And the fact of the matter is those things are going to get cleaned up, and Mahomes is going to go right back to throwing 1 interception every 4 or 5 games. Whenever Tyreek Hill gets new gloves or whatever he needs to do. Speaking of Tyreek Hill, those gloves, I think, as you probably know, is the company that he owns. So it's not a glowing endorsement of his company, which is pretty unfortunate. But anyway, once all that stuff gets cleaned up, the fans are fans of other teams and the media and analysts, and they'll all come back around and be like, oh, shit, Patrick Mahomes is back, and he's going to throw for 400 yards and 5 TDs on your team, and there's nothing really you can do about it. And to this point, I mean, he has been doing that. It's just mixed in with a couple, bad mistakes, not even really by his own doing, so...
Yeah, Patrick's currently on pace to have a better season this season than he did in 2018, and I think we all could agree it's him pressing because of, ironically enough, the 2 seasons where he's had his most interceptions were the 2 seasons he had by far his worst defenses. So right. There is math that is adding up to all that. Now, one final question with this one: Chiefs and Titans. It's currently Chiefs are 4.5 point favorites on the road, and the over/under is sitting at 57.5, which I would hammer the over in this one because I think both offenses can and will score at will in this one. Grant, how do you see this game playing out? I know you said that you think Patrick Mahomes is going to have 4 touchdowns in the first half. I think that's very possible. I think Patrick Mahomes could very well throw 6 touchdowns in this game. I compared it to the week 2 of the 2018 season against the Pittsburgh Steelers when he threw 326 yards and 6 touchdowns, which to this date might be his best game of his career. I think that's the type of game we're looking at from Patrick Mahomes in this one. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. The Titans are pretty banged up. Especially in the defensive backfield. I think their best cornerback that's going to be available this week is Janoris Jenkins. And outside of that, I think they've got practice squad guys opposite him. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens there. Tyreek Hill could have an absolutely huge game. I'd like to see them get Josh Gordon involved as well. But I don't think that Derrick Henry is going to have this spectacular game that everyone expects, simply because I know A.J. Brown and Julio Jones are a little bit banged up. Julio Jones missed practice all week, I believe, and then was limited on Friday. So it'll be interesting to see how much they actually utilize Julio Jones. I think Derrick Henry is going to, of course, he's going to go out there and he's going to get his yards like he always does. But I think we're going to see something closer to that 69 or 71-yard game that you mentioned that we saw. I think it was either in the playoffs last year or the year before. But I think we're going to see something closer to that game. Than we do these ones where he ran for 170 or 160 on us, like we've seen in years past. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the linebacker group. As you know, Anthony Hitchens is out, so Ben Neiman's going to have the green dot at the Mike linebacker position. And it'll be interesting to see, how Bolton and Willie Gay play, given that Willie Gay is still kind of returning from that toe injury and has been playing limited snaps. Hopefully they've been saving him for this week and kind of working him up to, the Derrick Henry game. But I think it's going to be a huge game for the future of what we can expect with Willie Gay and Nick Bolton. They're going to have to come out and show that, they were both worth those second-round picks that Brett Veach invested in them, going into this game. And then we'll see what Derrick Henry comes away with.
That is the owner. That is the president of one Arrowhead Live, Grant Morse. Guys, I'm telling you right now, if you ain't following these guys already, I'm wondering, do you have social media? Because these dudes, they provide great content. And I'm not just saying that because Grant's on the show with me right now. I say this all the time. One of my favorite follows. I can't believe it took me so long to follow him, but when everyone's retweeting his stuff, I don't even feel like I gotta follow the guy. I'm already following him. So, Grant, we do really appreciate your time. We appreciate you being here with us. I hope this isn't the last time. I hope that you had fun with us here with the Spoken Podcast. And whenever you want to join us, bro, you're always welcome to be here with us, man.
Awesome. I appreciate it, Lance. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely, brother. That was our guy, Grant Morse of Arrowhead Live. Give him a follow on Facebook, Twitter. I don't know if they have Instagram or not, but I do know that they're on Twitter, and they're absolutely crushing it over there, man. I'm telling you, they are one of the best follows out there if you're a Chiefs fan, somebody that wants to not only get involved with Chiefs content when it comes to what's on the field, but also they do a lot of giveaways. They're very charitable. They do a lot of stuff with the local artists. A lot of Chiefs fans are, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but like our guy Corey Jones, he's obviously one of the guys, like one of the milestone, or the Mount Rushmore guys of Chiefs artists. There's a ton of them, and Arrowhead Live always seems to have those guys on the show or on their shows or doing giveaways. So give them a follow. If you're on Twitter at Arrowhead Live, if you're on Facebook, Arrowhead Live, they're going to be sharing their content on our platforms as well, which I'm really excited about. It's all about cross promotion, man. All of us can eat out here, and we just really appreciate our guy Grant Morse enjoying a meal with us, if you will, here at the Spoken Podcast. Now, I do want to get to the Eddie Hour, but I do want to say something else about this, something that Grant mentioned when it came to Tyrann Mathieu, because of the fact that I think it's very important at this current time when it comes to Tyrann Mathieu and his future. I actually posed a question on our Spoken Twitter page. If you follow us at the Spoken Pod, I asked a question about when it comes to the year 2022 and beyond, who has the greatest chance? And I don't think Eddie was going to have this question, but who has the better chance of being on this Chiefs roster after the 2022 season? I put in Orlando Brown Jr., Tyrann Mathieu, and Tyreek Hill. And I think it's a very interesting question because of the fact that Tyreek Hill's contract is up after the 2022 season. Mm-hmm. Now, we can sit here and talk about extensions, but we also have the Orlando Brown extension that we all assume is inevitable. I do believe the Chiefs are going to franchise tag Orlando Brown after this season because he has been really good this season. I don't know if he's been elite.
He needs to show me some more, though.
But he's been really, really good. Yeah. And I do think that at 25 years old and what the Chiefs gave up to get him, they're probably going to sign him to a long-term deal. But we all want to see Tyrann Mathieu be here for at least the next 3 seasons, and we all know that there ain't no way in hell the Chiefs can let Tyreek Hill walk. So at this place, guys, real quick before we get to the Eddie Hour, just give me some real quick thoughts. If you really had to choose between those 3 guys, which one are you going with? Because I think this is an easy answer, but go ahead.
Between Tyrann, Orlando, and who?
And Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill, Orlando Brown Jr., and Tyrann Mathieu.
Tyreek is number one. I mean, there's not a... They're building maybe the greatest duo between a wide receiver and a quarterback of all time. I mean, we're talking legendary stuff here. This is not something... And Tyreek has slowed down in no way, right? And he's the guy that's fought through injuries and made his case for, being a top-tier receiver in this league. And he's only gotten better year in, year out. The dude continues to evolve and become a better player. And I'm not going to get rid of that connection that him and Pat have. I'm not going to make Pat's job harder, right? Which, obviously... If Orlando goes, that obviously makes Pat's job harder too. But if we have, we can always draft another left tackle if need be. And Orlando's been good. I don't think he's been that great. I think he's been really good, but he hasn't looked like a great left tackle. I'm gonna be honest. I mean, his numbers are obviously fine, but it's not like he's been like otherworldly, top tier left tackle in this league so far. He's been good, but Tyreek Hill is a once in a lifetime type of talent offensively. I think he's right up there with outside of quarterbacks, the best offensive player in this league. He's right up there with all the best, the Christian McCaffreys and the Derrick Henrys. And outside of quarterbacks, best offensive, most effective, dangerous player. Any defensive coordinator will tell you that. So for me, it would be Tyreek Hill. But as far as the Tyrann Mathieu thing goes, I don't know if you saw his quote on Twitter about how he's in. Did you see that at all?
Well, I don't know which quote you're talking about.
So basically, I got on Twitter. I think it was yesterday. He tweeted that he said, "I ain't going nowhere."
Yeah, that's what I was talking about with Grant.
talked
Yeah,
about
yeah.
it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
I was
Yep.
kind of tone out a little bit, reading some other things while you guys were discussing
Sure,
that. But
sure.
yeah, that quote alone, I take Tyron at his word, man. I think he's like one of those hard on his sleeve, open book type of guys. So when he's saying shit like that, to me, I take that to heart.
But I think we all would agree that it isn't Tyron's side
Of course.
that's going to make this contract work. It's
But I
going to
mean,
be the Chiefs.
but I
He
feel like
wants to
if
stay.
I feel like if the players all in, that honestly helps the team out because the team knows the players all in. If they know if it was the other way around, and the team really wanted him, but the player was undecisive, that's when I have more cause of concern
Sure.
for me. But if I know the players all in, he'll do it kind of what it takes to be here and to find a way to work around the to take the shortcuts needed for him to continue to be here and build this dynasty that we want to build here.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm not worried about Tyron going anywhere. I don't think Tyron wants to go anywhere and try to figure out something new on a new team. I think he knows what's here. I think he knows what's here is special. So I think Tyron's safe.
So Tyreek is your pick,
For
though?
Tyreek, between those three, it's Tyreek for me.
Okay, Eddie, who do you got for the three?
Oh man, for me, I gotta look at age, man. I'm sorry, but if it was between those three and we can only afford one of them, I gotta look at age for Tyrann Mathieu. He's 29. How much more can he give you at an elite level? You got Tyreek Hill at 26, who is still
Just
elite.
reaching his prime.
Yeah, he's
Like-
reaching his prime.
Yeah.
Orlando Brown still some work to do. I think, like what Trevor said. So I think, in my opinion, I think Tyreek will be that guy that we extend for what 3-4 years,
Yep.
whatever the contract is. So yeah, that would be my pick.
Tyreek,
yes.
Okay. Now look like this. My rule when it comes to building a team is always the three most important positions on a
I already know
field.
where you're going with yours.
My three most important positions on the field. Number one is quarterback. Number two is the guy that protects his blind side, which is more than likely based on right-handed throwers. It's going to be your left tackle, and then edge rush. Well, Tyrann Mathieu's not an edge rush, and Tyrann Mathieu is 29 years old. So if I had to choose between the three, he automatically is out of it. Not because I don't love him and I don't think he's great for this team, but just based on those factors alone, I have to
He's the most replaceable of the three.
push him away. Now, when it comes to Orlando Brown Jr., I do agree with you, Trevor. I do need to see a little bit more, but I always said when this offseason happened and we knew Eric Fisher wasn't returning, that it all starts at Eric Fisher's level and up. They cannot downgrade. And when they have the Trent Williams rumors, that's a clear upgrade. You go and get Trent Williams. And then we heard about Orlando Brown Jr. His floor is Eric Fisher. And so far this season, he's looked like Eric Fisher.
Yeah.
I think he's been a very top 10 left tackle. Not a top 5, but like a top 10. Very solid, very reliable. Has done a very good job. But I agree with you, Trevor. I'd like to see a little bit more. Surprisingly enough, I'm taking him off the list as well because I'm with Trevor on this
Okay.
one. And
See,
I'm
I
with
thought
you
you
on
were
this
going-
one,
I thought
Eddie.
you were
No,
going
no,
on
think
Orlando.
about it. And I'm actually going against my own methodology here when it comes to how I build my team. But that's because Tyreek is that special.
That's like taking
When we
Marvin
talk-
Harrison away from Peyton Manning or
Right.
something.
When
you
we
know
talked about, remember when BJ Kissel was on the show months ago? I always love to go back to that conversation because it was so rich in what he said. That when it comes to, I was talking about Travis Kelce and Tyrann Mathieu and their extensions, and how BJ talked about how all the guys in the Chiefs organization that he knew and talked to about these things was the Chiefs do not like giving guys that are 28 and older extensions.
Yeah,
but there
it's a
are
bad business
exceptions.
move. Yeah.
There are exceptions to the rule, and wouldn't you know it? After the 2022 season, guess how old Tyreek Hill is going to be? 28 years old. Do you guys agree that he's probably exception to the rule?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Because even if Tyreek misses an entire step, loses an entire step, he's still one of the 5 fastest dudes in the league. And when you have that type of speed and his durability mixed with Patrick Mahomes entering his prime,
He's more than
because at
just-
that point,
yeah.
Patrick Mahomes will be 27, 28 years old
Right.
himself. You're talking about two dudes lining up perfectly, almost perfectly in age. Tyreek Hill's about, I think, 6-8 months older than Patrick Mahomes. You put those guys' primes together, you cannot allow that to be disbanded. You can't allow, even if even if Orlando Brown was an elite left tackle, if I had to choose between the two, as crazy as it sounds, I'm still picking Tyreek Hill just in this certain instance because of how special he is, not just as an individual, but when it comes to him and Patrick Mahomes' relationship and the way that they can play together. If Travis Kelce was younger, I would feel a little more comfortable moving off Tyreek Hill. But because Travis Kelce is 32 years old now, you know that there has to be at least one guy in the receiving aspect that has to be reliable down the road. I think Travis Kelce's got another 3 or 4 really good seasons left.
For sure.
I think he'll be one of those guys that plays into his mid-30s like Jason Witten and Tony Gonzalez did, even Antonio Gates. I think he's one of those guys. But you can't just bet on that and say, Tyreek can go get his money elsewhere. We still got 34-year-old Travis Kelce. No, you can't do that. You can't do
He can
that.
become
That's not how this
a
works.
possession receiver towards the end of his career too. But yeah, Tyreek Hill is more than just speed, though, man. Like he's that's why his best comp is Antonio Brown. He's more than speed, and he's a guy that came in and grew as an individual, grew as a player, personal life and NFL life. And so as a player, the guy's got the speed and the ball tracking abilities. Yeah, he's had some bad plays recently, which is very uncommon for him, but the guy is the full package you want in a receiver. Outside of height, he's got everything you need, and I'm not taking that away from Pat.
It is time for the Eddie Hour. Eddie, I'm sure you have some very thought-provoking questions that I cannot wait to get to. Let's see if you can get me triggered, guys, because it usually works. Eddie, what is in the Eddie Hour this week?
Man, let's go to MLB real quick. So Astros are making it to a World Series not long after they were caught cheating to win it. Many people are questioning the punishment that the MLB gave them when the whole cheating scandal came about. I want to get your reactions and your thoughts on that.
What punishment? This is the stance that a lot of baseball fans and baseball players hold. Yeah. They didn't really get any punishment. Yes, their manager lost his job, and yes, they lost draft picks, and yes, their upper management lost their jobs. Did that really affect the players on the field? No, because all those guys didn't get suspended one game. Jose Altuve missed 0 games based off this, even though he has been confirmed to be wearing a wiretap. Mm-hmm. This dude was a literal informant on the field, letting people know what he's got going on when he gets a little buzz. Oh, it's a curveball. Fuck it. I ain't swinging at it. And they get no suspensions? We get guys that take an illegal substance unknowingly losing 50 to 80 games. But these dudes have been caught cheating in the most unashamed way ever. The most shameful way, I should say. The most shameful way ever. And they're sitting here playing their games free. No problems, no questions asked. The only thing they've really had to deal with was fan bases booing them, and they didn't even have to deal with that last year because there was no fans at the games. It's unbelievable that we're sitting here talking about a team. You already got me fucking triggered. Way to go, Eddie. We're already sitting here talking about it. We're sitting here talking about a team that did not suffer any true punishment. And it all started with the guy that wasn't even on the team anymore that snitched on him. Yeah. It's crazy. Are they a great team? Yes. They're one of the greatest teams of the last 20 years. Yeah. They've been to, 3 of the last 4 ALCSs? They're an unbelievable team. But they suffered no real punishment, man. It's crazy. I don't get it. I don't get it.
We live in a world where the NCAA can retroactively take away Heisman trophies from players because of a little bit of compensation. But we live in a world where also the MLB can literally have internal feds out there reporting and completely blatantly cheating the game and winning titles, and we're not taking away titles from teams. Fuck that, man. This is why I can't get with a lot of the MLB shit. We're stuck in a time warp where they don't want to be with the times, and it's frustrating, man, as a sports fan in general, to see slaps in the wrist for absolutely atrocious detriments to the game and the purity. Baseball wants to be the pure sport, right? The purity, they're completely, it's just disgusting as a sports fan, and that completely turned me off. I was never a big baseball guy. I respect the sport. I love the magic that it is, and going to baseball games is probably one of the best experiences you can enjoy as a person. But sitting there and seeing that, man, and there's literally not even a slap on the wrist. They just moved on and they just wanted to brush under the rug real quick, and now here they are again. Enjoying the experience of making another trip and having another chance to win it. It's just frustrating. And honestly, it kind of similar vibes to the Patriots shit that we went through for years. The different things that they did there too, and no true real punishment. It just slaps in the wrist. But yeah, man, I don't really have much else to say to add to what you said already. But it's just it's sickening, to be honest.
God damn, that was only the first question.
Yeah,
hot out
Shut
the
it
gate.
down.
Hot.
All right, a little bit of NBA. So Chris Paul is the first player to reach 20,000 points and 10,000 assists. Thoughts?
It's no shock to me that a guy like him has been able to do this for this long. I mean, even though he's an undersized player, even though that we know that he's been a guy that has dealt with his share of injuries and has come up short in the playoffs, one thing we can never take away from Chris Paul is his effectiveness on and off the court. We know how much of a leader this guy is on and off the court, how marketable he's been on and off the court. It doesn't shock me because he's one of the more complete point guards we've ever seen. I've always said, and it's been 5-6 years now that I've felt this way, and now I know this is the truth. He's one of the 5 best point guards we've ever seen.
Without a doubt.
I hate this notion that we have when it comes to individual success and how we align it with team success. I think we all would agree that had Chris Paul played with Kobe and Shaq, or just with Shaq or Kobe, he probably has a couple rings. It all comes down to circumstances, and that's why I'd love to see more of a player mobility in the NBA, where guys are able to dictate how their careers go, or at least give themselves the best chance to dictate how their careers go, especially when team success is brought into the equation as far as what a great player is. It's insane that we're sitting here talking about that. Chris Paul is by far one of the greatest point guards we've ever seen. I'd take him over John Stockton. Isaiah Thomas and him, it's very debatable, but just based on the fact that Chris Paul, to me, has faced better talent, especially at guards, and has been able to lock down dudes and average 18, 19
Very
plus 10
similar
assists
players.
a game.
Yeah.
I probably would take Chris Paul because I think as a defender, he's very underrated. As small as he is,
yeah.
he's 6 foot tall, 170, 180 pounds, not even a very big dude at all. But to be able to play this long into his career, 36 years old now, and still one of the better point guards in the league, does it really shock you that he's able to get to these historic feats? Because it doesn't shock me at all.
Yeah, Chris Paul's not even close, has faced far more superior perimeter players in the age that he's played in. Isaiah Thomas, as great as he was, did not have to deal with the shooters that Chris Paul's had. He didn't have to deal with the Steph Currys and the Ray Allens and all these guys. There wasn't shooters like that back in the day. There was there was the Larry Birds and stuff like that. When those guys were more outliers, and they didn't shoot at the volume that a lot of today's players
not
in the
close.
last couple of decades have shot at volume wise. And these got guys pulling up from the logo nowadays. It's bullshit, to be honest. It's one of the most frustrating things as a perimeter defender. There's nothing you can really do, and Dame and Steph are pulling from the logo. But yeah, I mean, Chris Paul may be the greatest asset to any team ever. Like, as far as like what he brings, every single team he goes to, he makes complete. Look what he did as soon as the Suns signed him. They're automatic favorite contender, and they went to the finals. Obviously, they lost, but everywhere he goes, there's success. Even in the Clippers days, like I don't think he's the true alpha of any team he goes to. He needs that alpha scorer. But he was supposed to be the alpha of that Clippers team, but there were some bad coaching blunders that went on there. Doc Rivers blew it.
We've heard that about every single year in the
He's got a
playoffs.
resume of doing that. But, I mean, look at Chris Paul's resume speaks for itself. Granted, he doesn't have a ring on his finger yet. But the guy is incredible, man. Everywhere he goes, he's the true leader of those teams. The guy knows how to facilitate. The guy knows how to score and need him to score. He does everything. He is an undersized guy. That's the only knock on him, just because there's certain guys he just gets overpowered by, and he can't do much about that. But as far as facilitating, scoring, and leadership, everything, he's the full package, man. And I'm glad he's got that on his resume as well.
All right, cool. What are your thoughts on the whole Ben Simmons situation?
It's pretty simple, and I know there's new chapters to all this that I do want to approach very tentatively. Ben Simmons, after the whole Doc Rivers conversation with the media after they had lost in frustrating fashion to the Hawks, who they should have taken care of business against as the number one seed in the East last season. After those statements were made by Doc Rivers about how he wasn't sure if they could win with Ben Simmons, I think everything just went down the shitter. I think that was the end of the relationship, especially when Joel Embiid didn't pick him up again for the media as well when it came to asking about their confidence in Ben Simmons. But here's the thing. This is all self-inflicted. Ben Simmons is the reason why this is happening. It wasn't because of Doc Rivers and what he said. It wasn't because of Joel Embiid and what they said. They only spoke the truth. And what's funny is we sit here and criticize people, and athletes, coaches for being honest, but that's exactly what we ask for. We want them to be honest. And the moment they are, we're like, oh, man, they didn't have his back. No, they're just sick of the shit. That's what they're sick of. They're sick of him having a wide open bucket with 6'1" Trae Young on him, and he passes it off. And it ends up becoming a turnover. And loses them the game. When Joel Embiid's out there with not one, not two, but 3 different injuries, averaging 30 and 12 in that series. He needed a running mate, and he didn't have it, and that was another wasted season for the Sixers. And it's because of Ben Simmons' inability to add to his game. He is one of the most talented individuals in the NBA today, and he refuses to add to his game. When LeBron James was Ben Simmons' age, everyone was sitting here talking about, oh, LeBron doesn't have a post game. You know what LeBron worked on? A fucking post game. And now he's one of the best post players in the NBA at his size. Because he wanted to be better. Ben Simmons doesn't want to be better. And now, I hate to be insensitive here, but I'm going to be. Sitting here conveniently talking about how he doesn't have the right mental fortitude right now, and he's not in the right mental place. Man, that's pretty convenient when your team's sitting here calling you out at practice.
I think it's true, but yeah.
It might be.
Yeah.
My point, though, is where's that been this whole time? Why wasn't this brought to the forefront before this? To where things are now really, the shit is really hitting the fan at a high volume. Now, all of a sudden, that becomes the conversation. If this is true, this should have been brought up before now. Because now it looks like an excuse. And you don't want to be giving anybody any more fire to add to the flame. You don't want to give them
Especially in
more. Yes. And Jason Kelsey's out here trying to oversimplify it, and I appreciate what Jason Kelsey was saying,
Yeah,
but that's not the end-all, be-all.
No, I
I'll
think
just
it-
play better. No,
I like
that's
what
not
he
the
said,
end-all,
man.
be-all. I like it. My point,
Yeah.
though, is if there really is mental lapses or mental problems going on with Ben Simmons, that should have been taken care of before now.
Yeah.
So this is all on Ben Simmons.
Yeah, Jason Kelsey, I think, hit it on the head, to be honest. He simplified it the best way he can, but it's not that simple. But that is, from the outside looking in, it is that simple. Just play better and the city will love you. I don't think Ben Simmons has it. I don't think he has it mentally. I don't think he has what it takes to be a star in this league. I really don't. I think he choked. I think he choked that game away. I think Philly had that series, and he's not the star they're looking for. I think he's going to be gone eventually. They need to find someone else, especially when fucking Joel Embiid's out there calling him. Joel Embiid
Even
has
if they don't get
zero
the trade
respect
value
for
they
this
want,
man.
even if they don't get the trade value
Right,
you want,
right.
they got to get that
They
out
gotta
of there.
get him out of there.
They've got.
He's a
They already have a
cancer.
good enough roster.
Yeah, he
They
needs to go.
do.
He needs to go play in New Orleans or somewhere
Somewhere.
like that where there's no expectations.
Yes.
He can't handle the expectations of being a star. I don't know if he ever
Do you think the
will.
Rockets got what they wanted out of that trade for James Harden? No,
Right.
they could have
No.
gotten better out of that.
But they had to
But
move
they
on.
knew they had to.
Yeah.
It's the same exact situation.
Yeah, I think Ben Simmons got so much talent. I think he does. I just don't think he's built to be a leader for a team. I think he's built to be a good asset, maybe a good facilitator. Obviously, he's an elite defender. The guy's maybe the best perimeter defender in the league. But as far as like big moments, we saw what happened when he needed.
He's more of a Lonzo Ball than a Chris Paul.
Oh yeah, of course. Well,
Yes.
even we've seen the greats like James Harden, one of the greatest scorers in the NBA we've seen in NBA history. You know, regardless of what you feel about his game, he's the volume shooter, gets his points, but I mean the guy crumbles in big moments, right? And it's similar. It's not for everybody, man.
It's a mental thing.
It's tough. So I get it. And it's Philly is one of the toughest cities to play in. You know, the Sixers and the Eagles are huge out there, and their hockey is huge out there. They have high expectations, regardless if they've been a winning city or not lately. The fans are brutal, and you got to play better or get out. So I think he's going to be gone eventually.
All right. So it's only been 2 games into the NBA season, and Lakers players are already getting into pushing and shoving. What do you make of this?
I think they're just a bunch of old men that are probably getting frustrated with each other starting the season the way they have. They're 0-2, and they got blown out at home last night. That would be frustrating. I can imagine. I'm not making
by a good team, but yeah.
I'm not making excuses
I think they
here.
only
They
ended up
need to be
losing by
playing
10.
better. Though I'm saying they were down 30 at one point.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make excuses for this team. I have high aspirations for this team. I have high hopes. I think they're going to end up winning the title. But I think if we look back at every team that has been a contender throughout the season, there's always that one point where there's a lot of frustration mounting up. And let's be honest, man, of all the teams in the NBA, this is the team, as crazy as this sounds, because they're all just newly acquired assets, they know each other better than anybody. Because all these dudes in the league, all the dudes on this team have been in the league for 6, 7, 10, 12, 15 years. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of veterans that have played against each other and hung out in the offseason, really good personal friends. They know it. So we can't act like these are a bunch of new guys hanging out. Like Dwight Howard and AD have known each other for many years.
Yeah.
LeBron, AD, Russell Westbrook, all these guys have been friends for a very long time. And we all know, we all argue with each other. We all fight with each other because we know we get irritated with each other. Yeah. So I'm not going to read too far into this, especially when it's really nothing. It was Dwight standing up and AD standing up, and then he just kind of got separated. It was really nothing to it. But because of what team it was and who it was, it became this big-ass story. I'm not buying into it. I think this team's going to be in the finals. I think they're the best team in the West. It's just a very rough October so far to this point. I'm not going to overreact to it because it is simply an overreaction.
Yeah, I mean, and losing's not fun, right?
Right.
So, I mean, there's going to be, you know, if whether AD said something smart or Dwight said something smart, my money's on Dwight, but you know, either way you look at it, somebody said something to somebody didn't like it, and it's brotherly love, brotherly hate. Shit, we used to throw basketball at each other's head when we played.
I'm going to throw some at Trevor at the end of the show. This is how
name a
it's a
time we
tradition,
played basketball
you know?
together and we didn't fight. You know what I mean? So
something was off.
We'd be
and
on
we
the
weren't
same
fighting.
team together and we'd be fighting all the
We're
time. So it
still
doesn't matter.
throwing blows, right?
Right. So I mean, I did not expect this Lakers team to hit the ground running. I really didn't. And this is I don't
even have them as a 1 seed.
I don't like the starting 5 rotation right now. I don't like Westbrook and LeBron on the floor together. I just don't. I think Westbrook should be the guy running the second crew.
Couldn't agree more.
I don't like there's not enough shooting on that first. I mean, I'd rather Carmelo start over Russ with that starting 5.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather that just having that shooting or Malik Monk, something. We've seen Rondo work with LeBron in a starting squad sometimes just because Rondo could become that facilitator, but Russ wants to score. Yeah. And I don't think they balance off each other very well. But as far as the scuffling stuff goes, this is going to be a team that's got growing pains. It's a whole new.
They'll find the rhythm.
It's a revamped roster. This is a bunch of veterans that all have pride. Dwight's been one of the best players in the NBA.
Who didn't make the All-75.
That was unbelievable. And then that list is trash, to be honest.
It was really bad.
Yeah, Kyrie Irving's not making it, but Reggie Miller is.
Clay Thompson
yes.
wasn't on there.
Yeah,
like, dude, what are we doing? What are we doing?
I don't
I don't want to dive too far into that, but what the fuck are
They
we
had some
doing,
dudes in
man?
there from the 20s, I believe. I don't know.
Alex English and the old Bucks player, I forget. I am trying to make a case for him. I can't even say his fucking name.
That list is
Regardless,
trash.
there were guys on that were not on that list.
Yeah.
That should have been on that list. And like Trevor said, Reggie Miller was on that
Was
list.
Paul Pierce on that list? I didn't see if Paul Pierce was.
I bet he was, but I haven't looked at the full scale. I just saw like notable names.
Yeah.
Reggie Miller is not one of the 75 best players in the NBA. DeMar DeRozan's a better player than Reggie Miller was,
Absolutely.
and
I
he's
agree
not
with
one of
you.
the 75
Yeah.
greatest players of all time. So
I agree with you.
it's that list. I'm going to say this really quick, and then we can move on. I apologize, but Bill Russell was in the top 3 of the 75 greatest players of all time.
Yeah.
Bill Russell averaged 15 points a game in his career against 6'2" white guys.
It's just these era.
Eight team leagues that Bill Russell was playing against. There was no talent on the court
This
at
is
any
why I
point
hate-
unless it's on
yeah,
his
this is
side of
why
the
I
court.
hate lists in general. I
So
know this is
dumb.
not your question, but like lists in general, like you got to define what the list is being calculated by. Like, are we talking about talent? Are we talking about impact?
Yeah.
If we're talking impact, Bill Russell 100% was the
Outside
catalyst
of
for
the
league.
Reggie Miller doing the choke thing to Spike Lee, what is his notable moments?
He was a good shooter, a decent defender, but he was very much an overrated player. And I
He
love Reggie
averaged
Miller.
18 points
He
a
was very
game,
much
2
overrated.
rebounds, and 2 assists.
Yeah, he was very much.
Does that sound like a top 75 guy, especially when he won 0 rings? And I know we talk about that, but
Yeah.
no real playoff success throughout his entire
Outside
career.
of that
Could
finals-
really J it
yeah.
up.
Yeah.
But he's not even one of the 3 greatest 3-point shooters of all time now. Klay Thompson was a better 3-point shooter in my eyes than Reggie
and a
Miller.
better defender. He is.
I'll just leave it there, man. I'll just leave it right fucking there, dude.
Well, you answered my other question, so
Oh, fuck, my bad, dude.
there you go. So no,
We can explain the process here. You know?
yeah, that's good though. That's good. All right, 2 more questions. 2 more questions. I want to get your thoughts on the whole story that's about to come out, or it's gonna come or came out about the Suns owner.
Yeah, Robert Sarver's in some deep shit right now. And I know we talked about this lightly last night about it, and I was assuming we were going to talk about this. The Suns have come out and essentially denied every single allegation that's come out about
were
Robert
shocked.
Sarver. Yeah, they were like,
Shocked.
we deny all bigotry, racism, and all that stuff. It's not a part of what we do here and all that stuff. What were they supposed to say?
Yeah.
Were they supposed to come here and go, yes, our
We
owner is
love
an
women.
absolute
We love
blatant
the gays.
racist.
Yeah.
He doesn't like black people. Like, what were they supposed to say? Of course they were going to say that, right? Like, we all knew that was going to be their stance and their approach. But we all know, because we've seen this before at the NBA level, when an owner gets outed like this, it never ends well. We saw the same thing happen with the Clippers owner, was it 8 years ago in 2013, when Adam Silver did not waste any time and said, God, what was that owner's name? I forget his name now.
Sterling?
Yeah. Yes, Sterling.
Yeah.
He's banned for life. He came out there, made an announcement. They took action.
Yeah.
I really think that's how this is going to go with Robert Sarver. Once they know for certain what was said, what's been said, not said, what's been done, all those things. Does it shock me? No, because we do know there's a lot of racism still in sports. We just had a situation a week ago with John Gruden and the emails, which conveniently the NFL said over the 650,000 other emails, there were 0 other racist ones. Bullshit. Yeah. This was an inside job to get John Gruden out of his job, and that's what happened. That's my theory now, based on about what we know. But when it comes to Robert Sarver, I think that now he has a whole other challenge on his hands when it comes to defending himself, because they've already denied it, which is half the battle when it comes to defense, just coming out openly denying it. Now you're going to have to really provide evidence that these are just attacks on you, because if they have any emails, any recorded messages, any texts, anything like that, just a single one of him saying anything that is even close to what we think it is, he's gone. He's done. The NBA is going to disallow him from being the owner of this team, and I think that's how this is going to ultimately end.
Yeah, and I'm all for this movement of cleaning house, man. We have no room for this anymore. Like,
this isn't the 90s anymore, man.
He may be a great,
Can't get away with
at
this
his
shit.
job. He may be great at his job. He may be a good person overall, but we don't have room for this anymore. This has gotta, and this is gonna keep happening over and over again, because the information era that we live in, it continues to progress, and there's no privacy anymore with stuff like that. And I think that's a good thing. I really do think that's a good thing. I mean, I think, this is what we need. We can't have people with hidden agendas anymore, man. Hidden agendas got to be coming to light, and it's becoming that way more and more. People like that should be exposed, and we should have, regardless of how great he is at his job, if you're that person behind closed doors, I mean, that helps guide the decisions you make and how you really think of people. We don't need those kind of character flaws from the top. Character flaws like that cannot be at the top, man. And that's just the trickle effect on everything else, is going to affect everything. So it's just, this is not a surprise, to be honest with you. So, I mean, I know they're coming out and denying it, and they were shocked by all this news, and so expect some some sponsored, Pride Month parades from the Suns and all these things to try to make it up. It sucks, man. It sucks that this stuff this stuff happens behind closed doors, but it is what it is, and I'm really not surprised by it at all. Hopefully, it's not true, but
All right. Last question. Patrick Mahomes or Derrick Henry, and I want no biases.
Jesus Christ.
I know what quote you're talking about. This was a poorly executed topic from ESPN, which I actually think wasn't a terrible idea to begin with, because I think there are ways to talk about those things as far as the right now, when you can say, hey, who do you think's having a better season, Derrick Henry, Patrick Mahomes? I think that's a fair conversation, because Derrick Henry's on an historic pace, but so is Patrick Mahomes, so we can make these arguments, right? But when you're sitting here talking about who would you rather have on your team, just that's the whole question. I mean, I feel bad for Tebow, because I don't believe he really meant what he said when he said he would take Derrick Henry. I'm calling his bullshit. I think these.
Somebody had to say it.
I think these no, because think about it. Like Rob Ninkovich, he's even admitted it that there's been times he's had to say things on ESPN he really didn't want. Now all of a sudden you're not seeing Ninkovich all of a sudden on TV. That's weird, right? These guys have to play characters. But the character Tebow played yesterday was the enemy, and he got absolutely drugged for it.
How ironic!
And
Tebow's
it's
the
so
sacrificial
funny.
lamb.
Go watch. Yeah. Oh shit. Go watch that video again.
Wow.
At the very end, when
Yeah,
Tebow
baby.
actually says the words, "I'm going to go ahead and take Henry." At the end of it, watch his throat. I know that sounds funny. He takes in a giant ass gulp. He's like, "Fuck! I am going to get fucking drugged for this. I'm going to have to pray to Jesus for the next 3 hours after this one, because I am going to hell for saying that." Because I just lied on national television. There's no way in hell a quarterback would take a running back over, even though he played more like a running back than a quarterback, would take a running back over the best quarterback in football, no matter how well Derrick Henry's playing. And Derrick Henry, I told you guys, he's not a human. He's playing out of his fucking mind, and he's been doing that since 2018. I don't care what numbers he's putting up. You take Patrick Mahomes, you take Aaron Rodgers, you take Deshaun Watson, you take any of the top quarterbacks in the league over Derrick Henry because of the quarterback value in itself.
Yeah. Okay. So you said no bias, right? All right.
Did that sound like a bias to
it's
you?
Patrick Mahomes.
Shit.
So yeah, like you said, that's all. That was gonna be my whole argument. Give me name your top 5 quarterbacks in this league, regardless of what order. Shit, top 8. I'm taking all 8 of those quarterbacks over Derrick Henry. Like the shelf life of running backs. Granted, he's kind of an anomalous type of player. The shelf life still for Derrick Henry is maybe another couple years at this level. Maybe this doesn't. He's a running back. There's no. Regardless, I don't care if it's prime Barry Sanders. I'm taking the best quarterback in the league over the best running back in the league. That's just the whole argument. The whole argument is self-defeating.
So I'm gonna go with Derrick Henry.
Look at the goal. Y'all seeing the goal?
All the blood just fell out of his face.
What'd you get?
So I'm gonna go with Derrick Henry.
Gulp.
Shit. Yeah, no, it's such a stupid. I hate that. That's even. They're really just they're digging and reaching so deep for these segments. I don't even know why this is like compare him to another running back.
7-Eleven should like work a sponsorship for Tebow now, like the big goal.
Why is the segment like Derrick Henry?
Derrick Henry,
or prime Priest Holmes, or prime name your running back the greats, whatever you want to name them. Let that be the conversation. Why are we comparing Patrick Mahomes? I kind of that's the matchup this week. But
he's the new standard, baby. He's the new standard.
Yeah, but that's giving Derrick Henry too much pride.
Remember when Zach Wilson was coming out of college? What would they compare him to? It's just like with Tyreek Hill. Whenever there's a fast, like 5'10" receiver coming out, what do they? Oh, this could be the next Tyreek Hill. It's the new standard.
How many MVPs is Derrick Henry? I mean, how many Super Bowl rings is Derrick Henry? Shut up. Come on, what are you doing, man? This is so stupid. This is so stupid.
So is that it for the Eddie Hour? We appreciate the Eddie Hour as we do each and every week. We're actually going to slide to you guys in the Monday mailbag now, because we need to understand what's going on in your world, what you guys are seeing in the world of sports, because we've seen a lot, but I want to hear what you guys have. Eddie, what is in the Monday mailbag this week?
All right, man. We got 2 questions. First one comes from Shaggy Shane, of course, from the show.
Yeah.
Brett Favre has plenty of awful highlight film himself throughout his entire NFL career and still wound up with a Super Bowl victory and plenty of awards to put him in the NFL Hall of Fame in Canton. With that said, do you think that makes it easier for Andy Reid to accept those baffling plays from Patrick this season, since Big Red spent his first few seasons in the NFL with Brett Favre?
I definitely think there's a certain level of calm that comes over Andy Reid, because he has experienced this before with another superstar quarterback in his past. Because we all remember about 30 years ago, Andy Reid was I think he was a tight ends coach or wide receivers coach at that time with the Green Bay Packers, and he obviously was very close to Brett Favre and still is to this day. I think he does see a lot of similarities when it comes to Patrick Mahomes and Brett Favre, but I also think that there's a certain level of angst that we're now experiencing as Chiefs fans fans because we're not used to Patrick Mahomes turning the ball over like Brett Favre did throughout the entirety of his career. Because as great as Brett Favre was, he would make so many head-scratching plays. And now that we're seeing Patrick Mahomes have just a couple, we're sitting here thinking that that's what's going to happen now. But I do believe there is a certain level of calm and confidence that Andy Reid has because he saw Brett Favre work through those things. And Patrick Mahomes has never really had to work through those things. And I think that he knows he's going to fix that. Andy Reid's going to help fix that. And I think I don't want to sit here and say that those aren't problems. They are. And they have cost the Chiefs a lot this season. But I don't think at any point of Patrick Mahomes' career is he going to deal with interceptions and turnovers like Brett Favre did, because I think Patrick Mahomes is not only just a better overall quarterback, but he's a much smarter quarterback. Brett Favre didn't even know what a cover 2 defense was
more
in
efficient.
his 11th season in the NFL.
Yeah.
Did not know what a cover 2
He played
defense was.
Chucky football,
Dude,
man. That's what he did.
one of my aunts that doesn't watch football knew what a cover 2 defense was. So it's very confusing that Brett Favre was as great as he was, and just because he had a cannon of an arm and was just unbelievably talented overall.
Natural feel for the game.
But Patrick Mahomes knew what a cover 2 defense was when he was just playing baseball. Yep. So this is a much different level. I'm not worried about it, and I don't think Andy Reid is either.
The comparison between him and Favre is probably the best comparison, because I think that's the best comp to Patrick Mahomes, even though Patrick Mahomes is the superior talent. They do have that backyard football style, which is more of a rare style of football. There's not a lot of quarterbacks have had that style and been successful. Patrick Mahomes is backyard football style, but he's efficient at it. That's because a lot of turnovers can come from that backyard style, the play breaks down type of game. But Patrick does it in such an efficient way, and he's just got his arm talent is just otherworldly. It's different. The crossbody throws, the no looks, all this stuff that's what makes Pat. He's a very unique style of guy, obviously. And the turnover stuff is, a lot of it hasn't been his fault, right? A lot of it's been tip passes and other players making mistakes, and then some freak plays like with the line of scrimmage play where that defensive end got that pick. That's just you just got to brush that off and live with it. We know who Pat is. We have a bigger sample size of Pat not doing these things consistently, so we're gonna get out of this. And with the Andy Reid being frustrated, I think Andy Reid has every reason to be patient with Patrick Mahomes. He knows who Patrick Mahomes is. He knows what we're going to do moving forward. He knows we're going to get it right. And that started with that second half of this game last week. So I don't think Andy Reid has any worry at all or any doubt. Definitely any doubt at all.
All right. Next question comes from Taylor Paredes. Reaction to the
I got
NBA,
Taylor.
Reaction to the NBA's 75 greatest players of all time. Do you think it was rated properly? Why?
You guys already know how I
Taylor
feel about
knows
this.
the
Taylor, I
answer.
hope you're watching and listening right now. You know how I feel now, and I'm sure we'll talk more about that if we watch the game tomorrow together. I'm just going to let you know right now, man, I think that this was a very lazy approach to ranking the all-time great teams or great players. I think there was a lot of fear with this list because they didn't want to piss off some of the legends that they had to move away with, which is why they created an additional 25. I'm going to be honest with you. I think they needed to be a little more savage with this list. I think they needed to take guys off the list and create just another 50. Revise the 50. Don't
fact
add
that they
this
had to add,
25.
yeah, it's-
Especially when you're not going to add the guys that belong on the list to begin with.
Yeah, why would you add another 25 when it's supposed to be the 75?
Dwight Howard is a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year.
Right.
Beat
Almost
LeBron
MVP.
James in the playoffs to get to the finals. Was one of the best players of his generation. This dude is a surefire Hall of Famer. I know he hasn't been popular to a lot of fans because of the way things went with LA the first time around. And I know that he's really declined steadily over the last 5 to 7 years. But his first 10 seasons in this league were unbelievable and almost unmatched from just a defensive perspective alone. And this guy's not one of the 75 greatest players ever. And again, we bring up Reggie Miller, who we all liked. We're all 90s kids. We liked watching Reggie play. Extremely overrated. And if I go down that list, I'm going to be saying fuck more times than Al Pacino in a movie. So I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to do myself a favor in my own mental capacity and just disagree with the list because after the first 26 that I saw, it was an absolute joke how they ranked, let alone who was on the list.
Yeah, I mean, it's a no for me. It's simple. I mean, no, the list was not put together correctly. The list was completely biased to the lore of the NBA. There's so many guys in there that just. That's why I have a problem with lists. Like, how are we grading this list? Is it impact? Is it the guys that paved the way? Because there was a lot of paved the way type players on that list, and like guys from the 50s and 60s that were just like role players in the 50s and 60s. Like, not even like, it's just, I don't know, man. Like, I have a problem with, especially.
Bill Russell's not one of the 3 greatest players of all time.
No,
We got to stop this
absolutely
shit.
one of the most successful.
He's, again,
Don't do this. Don't
15
do this.
points a game. He played in the 50s and 60s.
Dude, if you put
and he
Le-
averaged 15 points a game as a 6'10 center.
Yeah, drop LeBron in the 50s and 60s barefoot.
Dude,
and
he was Zach Randolph.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, we sit here and mythicize these guys as these titans of the past, and they're not as good as we thought they were. It's just the facts, man. I know, oh, Lance, you weren't alive at that time. Okay, go tell the history teacher that's 36 years old. He wasn't a part of the times when Troy was taken and all this other shit happened. Maybe he shouldn't teach
This
it,
is what I'm
right?
saying. Are
Go
you-
get the 978-year-old dude to teach it, right? No! I know history because I can see it.
Yeah. It's
Bullshit.
This is what I'm saying. The problem with these lists is the fact they had to add another 25 is just like, throw the list away then. What are we doing? Like, what's the point?
Saying.
You know what I mean? So, like, just break out the 100 list. Like, what the fuck? I mean, it makes no sense. It's self-defeating anyways. But yeah, like, what are we basing this list on? Impact, talent. Obviously, it wasn't a talent list because there's so many guys from the last couple decades that should have been on there, that far superior talents than any of those guys on that list. So, yeah, I don't even pay attention. Just like,
We got to move
I
on
feel
because I'm going to start getting pissed.
No, I feel the same way about this list that I do like the Madden shit, like the Madden ratings and all this stuff. Like in real life, it does not
bad.
matter. Like so, I don't even think Klay Thompson should be giving it as much gas as he's giving it, or as much oxygen as he's giving it.
I'd feel disrespected if I was
get
him.
it, dude. I get it, but like, just channel that and use it as fuel on your comeback. Just if you were snubbed, you were
Yeah.
snubbed. Look at last year's All-Star selections. I mean, that's how deep the talent pool is now. There's like 6 or 7 guys who were snubbed from the All-Star selections last year that we easily could have made it. That's how deep the talent is, and athletes are just far superior in this past couple decades in today's age. It is what it is. That list is trash.
I don't know.
What's the next question, damn it? What is the next question?
That's it.
Okay, we got Stan Simmons. Stan Simmons on the line one. I think this is what, the 4th week in a row now? He's done a man, I got to keep this going, dude.
Better not trigger me and you to have another argument.
Call him Butta. Stan is on a roll. Here we go. This is Stan Simmons' question. We have not heard this yet. None of us have, right? Nope. Okay, none of us have heard this yet. This is a message from our guy from Fresno, Cali, Stan Simmons. What we got?
Hey guys, what's up? Finally, our Chiefs put together a dominating performance. First half notwithstanding. It was good to just get a win. Washington hasn't beaten a Chiefs team since 1983. This got me to thinking and reflecting about past histories. I'm a bit of a history buff. In your lifetimes as a participant or as a sports fan, has there ever been a game that to this day still haunts you? A legitimate woulda, coulda, shoulda situation? For example, I was only an infant when the longest game was played on Christmas Day 1971, Chiefs versus Miami. But that loss still bugs me because I think the Chiefs probably win the Super Bowl that season. John Stenner missed 2 field goals, chip shot field goals, and had 1 blocked. That loss ushered in the dark ages of Chiefs football for the next 15 years. What loss still haunts you guys, whether you're a participant or a fan?
Ooh. Great question.
Oh, so Eddie got me triggered, and now Stan's going to get me crying. This is going to be a fun roller coaster of a show, boys and girls.
goddammit.
Nah, Stan, honestly, there are so many of them that as a Chiefs fan, dude, growing up, anticipated heartbreak was a part of the equation when it comes to watching Chiefs football because we knew how it goes. Either they miss the playoffs by this much or they lose a frustrating playoff game whenever they actually got there. Just a couple of them when it comes to my early life, and I'm kind of dating myself here, but when it came to the 2003 season against the Indianapolis Colts, the no-punt game, Peyton Manning came in here and scored 38 points on the Chiefs. You look at that game and you think, oh, you lost to the Colts, a team that could have very well won the Super Bowl that year. They were that good. Yeah, but the Chiefs had the best offense in football that season, and they could not capitalize on multiple opportunities the Colts gave them in that game. Not to mention, Tony Gonzalez had a horrific offensive pass interference that equated into a touchdown that probably would have won the Chiefs the game at that point that was taken away, and they called it OPI on Tony, whether you agree or not that was actually OPI or not. And then Priest Holmes very uncharacteristically fumbles the ball. It was a turnover in the moment, and it gave the Colts that much more life. I think the Chiefs would have drove and scored on that. You're talking about a 14-point swing in a game the Chiefs lost by 7. And again, did not punt the ball. Dante Hall had a kick return, it was a kick return for a touchdown. You felt like it was just that Chiefs time, because why it's so frustrating is the fact that you're talking about a team in the Chiefs that they beat that Colts team. They would have went on, I believe, to beat the New England Patriots, because I think the Chiefs would have hosted that game as well, because the Chiefs were the 1 seed in the AFC. I think they would have beaten the Patriots and would have went on to get to the Super Bowl. Whether they win the Super Bowl or not, the fact is that game really, really hindered the Chiefs from having a run they should have ultimately had. And just obviously, I think against the Colts, again, we're talking about that 2014 game against Andrew Luck when the Chiefs were up 38-10, I believe at halftime, ended up losing 45-44. You saw like Brandon Flowers, Jamal Charles, Justin Houston, Jamal Lee, just decimated with injuries in that second half. Alex Smith played really good, but had an opportunity to score at the end and throws Dwayne Bowe out of bounds. That game to me was more not heartbreak, but just sheer fury, because you're up 4 touchdowns and you lose. There's no excuse for that. Those are the two I come to mind, but trust me when I say I can sit here, I can go get some Kleenex Puffs real quick and just hash out some of my feelings about it. Luckily, 2018 changed a lot of that, 2018 on, but there are plenty of them that I can go with, man. We're going to talk about kickers back in the 90s, like our guy Stan Simmons said, but I'm going to stop right there and let Trevor cook.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of those. Yeah, you can pull from there, like you alluded to. But one that came to my mind immediately was the wild card game in 2017-2018, Alex Smith's final year. We're in the wild card game against the Titans, when Marcus Mariota threw a 6-yard touchdown to himself. We were up 21-3, and he threw that ball and it got batted and it went right back to me and just ran it in. And the box score showed Marcus Mariota pass from Marcus Mariota for a 6 yards touchdown. The way we lost that, and then the forward progress sack from Derek DJ, that when he totally annihilated Marcus Mariota.
Was that Jeff Triplett? The
forward progress. It was the most ridiculous.
He retired
thing.
after that game too.
Yeah,
was it Larry Triplett or Jeff Triplett? I forget his name.
Yeah,
retired right after that game.
We were up 21-3.
He got fired,
We were up 21-3. Alex Smith played well in that game. We were playing well in that game, but all these freak things started happening. Everything just piled up against us. That one definitely haunted me because I was excited about that year. We had a really good year that year. Alex Smith was playing well. We were in the wild card game. Very confident we were going to beat Marcus Mariota and the Titans. Felt like that was a game we should have won, and we kind of looked past it. And the way it happened, the touchdown pass to himself, all that was just one that definitely haunted me, the way we went out. Injuries is one way to lose, but the way that game happened was just... It's just, yeah, definitely. Talking about haunting, that one's definitely on the list for
I
me.
was actually at the game.
Were you?
Yeah, I was.
Oh, shit, I'm glad I didn't pay to go to that shit.
That was $20, so.
Oh, there you go.
$20 for some fucking heartbreak. What are you
Yeah, hey,
By the way, I want to say to
$20
Stan
well
real quick,
spent though.
I think Stan needs to sign up for Audible and start doing some voiceover work for reading books.
I'm telling you, man.
Because, dude, that was like...
It was a dark, cold,
if I
sultry
closed my
night in
eyes, I felt like I
Colorado.
was watching like a documentary on like Animal Planet or something. Like, dude, that's like... He needs to do
Stan,
some
you got a future,
narrating.
bro.
You need to do some narrating, bro.
You're on the California side of things too, so there's talent everywhere, man. You can find an agent, no problem. We can help you if we can, but
For me, it has to be the 2014 World Cup game between Mexico and Netherlands. That was the most heartbroken I've ever been watching the soccer game. I ain't gonna lie, I cried like a little bitch.
you are.
it adds up, you know.
Yeah, no secret there.
Can't take it.
We were winning 1-0, and then all of a sudden the whole game changed when the refs decided to play for Netherlands. Apparently, they scored the game tying goal, and then with a couple minutes for the game to end to officially go to overtime, Arjen Robben, which played for the Netherlands, decided to dive into a swimming pool in the in the zone, on the box, or whatever you want to call it, and the ref decided to call it penalty. Still to this day, that hashtag no era penal, which translates to it wasn't a penalty, haunts everybody, every Mexican that I know. We remember 2014 as the year that we could have went to that fifth game, to where we could have compete and not make it far, but obviously compete and get into that fifth game. And we were so ecstatic, so hyped, and then the heart crunching finale to that game was
Heart crunching. That's actually a good one. It's not heartbreaking. It
Crunch my
crunched the
heart
shit
right
out of me.
I was dead after that, pretty much. It was like
You've literally flatlined
Crunch in
it.
my heart.
And he's over there. Mom's like resuscitating him and shit.
every Mexican flatline during that. It was the most heartbreaking loss I've ever experienced.
Mexicans worldwide die.
I ain't even gonna lie, bro. That shit, dude. Immediately after that, like Facebook was quiet for like 15 minutes after that play because nobody wanted
Moment
to
of silence for our Mexico friends.
Exactly, dude. That shit was just so depressing that to this day that shit was not a penalty. That fucking piece of shit FIFA. Fuck them.
Shout out FIFA.
Yeah, fuck them. So.
So, Stan, does this answer your question? We're all depressed now, man. We were feeling really good, really excited about this Titans-Chiefs game, and you ask us this question about our most depressing low moments.
Now I'm gonna
as
go take a
fans.
cold shower.
Thanks, Stan. No, I was kidding, man. Thank you for the question, as always. And
I'll go
thank
cry in the
everybody
bathtub.
for the mailbag questions, as we do each and every week. On Monday, we drop those on our Facebook page. Thank you all so much. We had a lot of regulars this week, but we're always holding out hope for newbies out there to drop us a line, ask us a question, or make a statement, whatever you guys got. We're here for that. So we need to move along because we have a couple more topics for the day, and we're going to get out of here and let you enjoy the rest of your weekend. It is the Chiefs and Titans this week.
Let's go.
A massive matchup. The Titans are coming off a big game that's making them feel really good about themselves. I know that game had more to do with the Bills dropping it more than the Titans winning it because the Bills, quite frankly, were the better team in that game. They just had some serious mishaps that equated into a 3-point loss that they shouldn't have lost. But the Titans are feeling really good about themselves because no one was, including us, picked the Titans to win this game. I believe the Bills were, I think, a 7-point favorite on the road, which means they'd be at least a 12, 13-point favorite at home had it played in Buffalo. But Titans took care of business, got what needed to be done, and Derrick Henry showed the legend that he is in this game. The crazy thing about Derrick Henry this season in particular is the way he's been accumulating his yards. He's not getting them like 6-7 yards at a time. He'll get 2 yards, 3 yards, 2 yards, -1 yard, 5 yards,
Death
4
by a
yards,
thousand cuts.
58 yards. Like he does this weird thing where he'll literally just take his time. There's no pressing or rushing anything, literally and figuratively, at times where he's just taking his time. And all of a sudden, he sees that one opening and then runs for 21.8 miles per hour at 6'3", 247 pounds. We've never seen anything like Derrick Henry. I know there's the comparisons of him and Jim Brown, but Jim Brown wasn't even as big or as fast as Derrick Henry is and didn't face nearly
He's
the
one of a kind,
competition.
man.
He is truly one of a kind, and there is now a history between the Chiefs and the Titans and Derrick Henry for that matter, because we've seen Derrick Henry absolutely obliterate the Chiefs defense and then absolutely look average against this Chiefs defense, just two different magnitudes of the game and overall performance. Coming into this matchup, I'll be real with you guys. I've been very nervous about the Chiefs defense, even though they showed us some serious life in that second half against Washington. But this is a whole different animal, a whole different beast the Chiefs are going up against. And the biggest reason why isn't just because of Derrick Henry. It's actually because of the quarterback position. I know Ryan Tannehill has not been great this season by any stretch, but one thing we do know about Ryan Tannehill is he's mobile. The guy is able to utilize the bootleg, whether it's for him running or going and getting a guy that's wide open on the flat or down the field because of the play action everyone biting on it. We saw that many
He's
times.
been pretty bad this year.
Yes, he has been bad. I think he only has 6 touchdowns on the
Yeah, he's
season,
been
which is
pretty
not
bad.
good at all through 6 weeks. You should be having 11, 12, 13, and beyond touchdowns at this point.
He's been without his two number one guys, though, to be honest.
Especially in today's NFL. Yes, and Julio Jones and A.J. Brown both might miss this game. A.J. Brown's got an illness, and Julio's got a bad
Some
hamstring.
digestive issues.
Yeah. I think he said it was at Chipotle, believe it or
I think
not.
he
He
had
said
food
that Chipotle,
poisoning.
he had food poisoning at
That shit
Chipotle.
can linger too, man.
This is where I'm the most concerned when it comes to this matchup. Because we all know that Derrick Henry's going to get his. I mean, hell, we saw Derrick Henry get over 145 rushing yards and a touchdown against the Jets, and the Titans lost that game.
Yeah.
We've seen Derrick Henry eat, and then the Titans still take an L. We've seen it happen. And that could very well happen in this one. What concerns me is where the Chiefs' defense has actually struggled the most, and it's against running quarterbacks, mobile quarterbacks. From weeks 2 to 5, the Chiefs faced Lamar Jackson, Josh Herbert, or Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, and then Josh Allen. Those guys average almost 60 rushing yards a game against this Chiefs defense. Now, you look at that and you think, oh, it's only 60 yards. It's contextual, because what happens is you'll have a 3rd and 7, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 11, and you think you got your guys all marked up, and then this mobile quarterback runs out and gets 15 yards, and then it just totally decimates the effort your defense just put on the floor for three straight plays. Those are the types of back-breaking drives and extension of drives that can keep this defense winded. And we all know this Chiefs defense, once they get winded, they don't really have a lot to combat you with. Once they're backpedaling, they don't really got the lot because they don't get that upfront pressure enough. Now, the Chiefs are getting Chris Jones back, which means they'll have Frank Clark and him back finally together, which we have to see this going. Mike Daniels played well, but we can't rely on Mike Dana each and every week. So the pass rush is still extremely questionable in this one. And again, when Tannehill gets you to bite on these play actions, a lot opens up for them regardless of who he's throwing to and whatever he decides to do with the football. That's actually where I'm focusing the most because, again, I do expect Derrick Henry to have a good game. Does he have a great game? I don't know. More than likely, he's going to have somewhere in between a great and a good game. I bet he has anywhere from 95 to 120 rushing yards. If he does that, I think the Chiefs have still a really good chance of winning this game because I don't think Derrick Henry is going to be what dictates the outcome of this game. What's going to dictate the outcome of this game on the defensive side for the Chiefs is how they play against Ryan Tannehill and his mobility. If they force, actually, as crazy as this sounds, if they force the game to be ended by Derrick Henry alone, I think that's actually the best bet for the Chiefs because of the fact that if you're giving multiple, if the Titans offense is versatile in this game, the Chiefs defense is going to be lost. But if they know the only way the Titans are scoring in this game is just through Derrick Henry, I think the Chiefs have a great opportunity. Now, when it comes to the offensive side of things, I don't want to be hyperbolic here. I really don't. I think this is going to be the best game of Patrick Mahomes' career. In this game, I really believe that. I think this is going to be the
Rams game.
And in that game though, he had 4 turnovers or 5 turnovers.
Yeah, but he still.
The
had,
reason
what, 6 touchdowns?
and it was a loss. And it was a loss.
Yeah.
He did have 6 touchdowns and 478 yards. That was an
say.
incredible game. Yeah, I think he completed 74% of his passes in that game. It's a very weird game how that worked out for the Chiefs. But I compare this one to the game I think is currently the best game of Patrick Mahomes' career was against the Steelers in Week 2 of 2018.
Oh yeah,
He completed over 70% or 80% of his passes in that game. 326 yards and 6 touchdowns, 0 picks.
Yeah.
Had a perfect football
Against
game.
the
Had
Steelers.
5 incompletions and 6 touchdowns. You couldn't ask for a better game from a quarterback in the history of football. I think that's the type of game Patrick Mahomes has against these Titans. Not just because Patrick is that great and is capable of doing those types of things, but because of the fact the Titans are literally, this is the worst time for them to face Patrick Mahomes.
So banged up, man.
Not just because they're banged up. You're right.
They're already
Their
bad.
secondary is decimated with injuries, and they were already terrible going into the
Yeah.
season at corner, right? They have a guy named Jack Rabbit Jenkins. It was formerly Janoris Jenkins, but he changed his name to try to deflect from the problems he's been having on the field, right? So now we have a Patrick Mahomes who's also pissed off because as you guys, we've all been paying attention to this bullshit narrative that's coming out here about who would you rather take, Derrick Henry or Patrick Mahomes.
I love it. It's hilarious.
You don't think Patrick Mahomes is seeing that shit? The moment he finished 4th for the 2nd straight year in the NFL Top 100 a year ago, what did he do? He tweeted out, check, I got you guys. I got a receipt on this one. And what did he go out there and do? He had an MVP caliber season. The Chiefs won the Super Bowl. That's my point in all of this, is that Patrick Mahomes pays attention to these things. And now that he sees a hurting unit against the secondary of the Titans and knows that this defense in itself is not good at all, they have 0 strengths on this defense. I mean, I heard a beat reporter from the Titans yesterday tried to find something positive in this matchup and said, well, I mean, their pass rush has improved. The Titans defense had one of the worst pass rushes in the NFL last season. So from going shit to poop really isn't saying much. So they still suck. And this defense is going to give up a lot of points to the Chiefs. And I think Patrick Mahomes is going to have a 400-yard plus game. And I think he's going to have 6 touchdowns. I'm going to say that right now. I think Patrick Mahomes has that, hey, y'all forgot about me, motherfuckers, type of game. I really believe. I said it 3 weeks ago. I said Patrick Mahomes is going to have over 30 touchdowns before the bye week. He's sitting at 18 right now.
Yeah.
And I think the Chiefs' bye week's week 10. So they have 4 more games before that happens. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to get over 30 touchdowns before the bye week, and I think that starts this week when he really reestablishes himself as the MVP in the NFL.
Yeah, that's why when we were finished watching that Bills Titans game, I immediately told you, my dude, Pat is going to destroy this Titans defense because he's going to do everything that Josh Allen wasn't doing. And Josh Allen always has those letdown games where there were so many opportunities he had that he left on the field, let alone he blew the game by that terrible sneak. It was trash. Like, he completely slipped. How does a guy that big just slip and fail on a sneak like that? Either way, like, there were so many points the Bills left on that field. They could have blew them out. I will say Mike Vrabel is an absolute genius. He's one of my favorite coaches in this league. The little things he does where he shifted his defensive line just at the right time where he can shift a defensive line. He made the Bills jump. Little things like that, he's so tactical, and that's very Belichickian. He learned a lot of that from Bill Belichick. That's small little minute things in the game that you can tweak and cause mistakes on the other side. I very much have a ton of respect for Mike Vrabel. I think he's a genius. But as far as the Chiefs defense goes, I think that, you say Ryan Tannehill's mobile. He's mobile opportunistically. He's not like a mobile. He's not a running quarterback. He's not. There's not really many designed runs. He's not one of those guys. There's only a handful maybe of those kind of guys in the league that has designed run plays. He's very rarely like a design run guy. He when there's a lot of everyone's downfield and the play breaks down, yes, he has wheels. He can get there. He can definitely run. But we've seen guys like he's similar to Pat. Pat can run for a 20-25 scamper, get you a first down plus every once in a while. That's kind of how Ryan Tannehill, he's very opportunistic. I just think we need to blitz. That'll take that right away. In my mind, if we blitz him, he gets very uncomfortable. If we rattle him, he's going to start throwing picks and making mistakes. We've seen Tannehill get rattled like that. I think if we blitz and bring guys off the edge and keep him in the pocket where he's not able to run when the play breaks down, and we get home on these blitzes, we blitz Snead every once in a while, we blitz Tyron. Bro, I love when those blitz packages with Tyron and Snead, and we get because they almost always get there. And I think if Frank Clark can continue what he was doing last week, setting that edge and getting there, he should have had a sack last week. Heineke just happened to roll on top of his body and get back up, which is a heads-up play by Heineke. Kudos to him. But I think if we can get to Tannehill like that, and that offensive line is already without Luan, that's a huge loss for them. He's going to be out this week, so with the concussion or whatever. So I think that's huge, and we need to take advantage of that. I think we need to blitz the hell out of Ryan Tannehill. We can if Derrick Henry beats the blitz and he breaks free and gets a couple big chunk plays, maybe a couple touchdowns, I'll live with it because I 100% agree with you. I think Pat's going to go off. I think he's going to do what Josh Allen refused to do and just absolutely decimate this defense. Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, McCole Hardman, and I think Josh Gordon might even get a score here. I think we're going to absolutely go off. I think offensively, I'm not worried about this at all. I think we continue the trend offensively, what we were doing to Washington, who's even far better defense than this Titans defense is in my mind. And they haven't even been good. I think this Titans defense is a bottom 5 defense in this league. I think Pat's going to go do what we expect him to do. And I think this is definitely even more of a get-right game and a continuance of that second half in Washington. But defensively, I think we're going to be okay. I'm fully on board and okay with Derrick Henry getting his. Fine. If we're throwing touchdowns and scoring in 2.5, 3 minutes on a drive, and then they want to go have a long running drive with Derrick Henry that's going to take 6, 7 minutes, go for it. You're going to get boat raced. We're going to destroy you. That's how you want to go for it, and especially if they're without A.J. Brown and Julio Jones. I don't expect Julio Jones to play. I think that hammy is going to be a problem. Maybe if he suits up, he's probably going to re-injure it again, just like he did in the Bills game.
And best case scenario for the Titans, you're getting a guy maybe 60% of what Julio normally is. Right. And at this point, Julio hasn't had a great season.
So
he's
both those guys are out. You got Chester Rogers as your number one receiver. Good luck, man.
And Taylor Lewan's not playing this game.
That's huge. So that's why I think we need a
massive loss.
I think we need to blitz the shit out of them.
Despite what Chris Broussard thinking that the Bills have Taylor Lewan as their left tackle.
Dude, that's so
and in
good.
fact, he does play for the Titans. So I feel bad for Broussard on that one.
Yeah,
he did own it. So
matchups make fights. Vrabel coached his ass up against the Bills. He took advantage of in finding the weak points in Josh Allen's game. Josh Allen has those up and down games. He's kind of a roller coaster guy. He's not the thrower that Patrick Mahomes is.
Yeah.
He's just not. You put Patrick Mahomes in that Bills offense, they blow them out. Absolutely. I have no doubt in my mind. Patrick Mahomes is going to pick this defense apart. We're going to do it, and obviously the coaching staff, offensive coach staff, and over there in Bills town is not what Andy Reid is. Yeah. Andy Reid is going to go out here and just have a game plan. I expect us to be fireworks from the jump until the very end.
Yeah, I think my main focus on this game is on the defense. I'm not too concerned about the offense. Hopefully their turnovers are going to slowly get away, like I said. But other than that, I'm not too concerned. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to go out there and get his game, or I don't think he's going to be a record game for him, but I think he's going to have a great game. Hopefully he doesn't throw any picks in this game, but the way we're going this season, who knows? But like I said, my main focus on this defense, can they stop Derrick Henry? Can they stop those chunk yard plays? Can they stop him from getting 15 to 20 yards every now and then? What are they going to do to tackle that? Like, I'm with Trev. They should send a blitz. I think they should put that pressure on Tannehill early so they can kind of go on that run game, kind of force themselves into that run game.
I will say this, too, to interrupt you real quick. The only way you're going to stop Derrick Henry, you can't let him get going.
Yes.
Once you miss that first tackle, we got to meet him in the backfield.
Yes.
Because once he gets going, his weight starts rolling, and he gets those 21-mile-an-hour runs, you're fucked.
And we can't expect.
You got to hit him in the backfield.
Yeah, we can't expect Tyrann Mathieu.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad you said that because think about what Twitter is going to be like if Tyrann Mathieu blows up Derrick Henry on a play. Like, think about what Twitter's going to look like, or even on the opposite.
what his
end.
Twitter's gonna
Let's
look
say,
like
let's
after
say,
the game.
yeah, let's say Derrick Henry.
told ya!
Let's say Derrick Henry just runs over him like a dandelion. Like,
Yeah.
imagine like either one of those things happening. Twitter, I'm not missing it. I'm gonna tell you right, that's must see TV, bro. So you better get on your Twitter sphere when that happens,
Absolutely.
boys.
I want to see what this Chiefs defense does to adjust to Derrick Henry and the Titans.
We've seen it
style of
before.
Play.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've seen them. Was it the playoffs that the Chiefs pretty much
They forced Tannehill to try to
Yeah.
beat him.
I think
Yeah,
Derrick
they-
Henry's going to eat, but yeah.
They made
I think he's
Henry
gonna get
obsolete
his.
in that game. He was nobody. So I do expect this game to be more like that first game that they played in Nashville a couple years ago.
Kind of a shootout.
Yeah, kind of like a shootout. I think they're going to go back and forth because I think both these teams' defense is not good enough, and I think the offenses for both teams are good enough to put points on the board. So I think we're going to see a back and forth on both. On
Trading
both,
blows, yeah.
trading blows. So
Expect some trickery. I think
yeah,
Vrabel's
so
going to
this
have some
is-
tricks up his
yeah,
sleeve.
So
yeah.
this is going to come down to who makes the less amount of mistakes. That's what this game is going to come down to.
And to your point about the defense is not really having much say in how this game's ended up going, I'm with Trevor on this. I wouldn't be shocked if Vrabel tries a fake punt or onside kick to try to
gotta
take
have an
away a
edge.
possession
Find
from the
an edge.
Chiefs because he knows. Because honestly, in this game, the Chiefs have the better defense. As crazy as that sounds, I think they have the better defense in this matchup.
Oh, yeah.
I really do. Just
Far-
based
far
on
more
availability
talent.
alone.
Far
Just
more talent.
And that's crazy to say because the Chiefs have been the worst defense arguably in football this season. But the Titans have been, I think they're 25th overall in defense, and they've lost 3 starters this last game. So I do think there's a real opportunity for the Chiefs to put on some serious points. I just don't think the Titans are going to be able to hang with the Chiefs, even with the Chiefs' defensive deficiencies. To your point about this being more similar to that Week 10 game against them in 2019. Outside of a few just horrific, like a block kick and
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's gonna
special
come down
teams
to who makes
turnover,
the
special teams
mistakes.
touchdowns. Outside of that, the Chiefs should have won that game, and Patrick Mahomes had 446 yards and 3 touchdowns in that
Coming
game.
off a turn or coming off an injury.
And that Titans defense
Yeah.
was significantly better than this Titans defense. So just bear that in mind as well. We're going to get to the key players of this game, and then we're going to get to holding some L's. When it comes to the key players of this game, it's a guy that I think has been the most consistent Chief this season, that I think hasn't had a big game over the last 3 weeks, but is going to have a massive game in this one. Is Travis Kelce. I think he's going to be I think he's the key player because there's not a single linebacker on that Titans defense that has a prayer of stopping him. Their safeties and corners, as we've already talked about 15 fucking times, is completely decimated.
Yeah.
Travis Kelce, banged up or not, is going to, I think, have 2 to 3 touchdowns in this game. I think Tyreek Hill on a snap count is still going to be effective. He probably will get a touchdown as well because of the fact that I think he's going to play roughly 45 to 48 snaps like he
play
did
some
last week
decoy.
because his quad injury is still there.
Yeah.
I think Travis Kelce, with him being a full go in practice this week outside of the rest day he had, I think you're going to see a Travis Kelce game about 130 receiving yards and about 2 to 3 touchdowns. I think he's going to have the best game of his season to this point against this defense. It's the opportunity is there for them to do what they want to do. You saw them in that second half against a decent Washington defense, not a great defense, but a decent Washington defense. Just move the ball. It was there was no sweat on their backs. They were just moving the ball. No questions asked. DeMarcus Robinson had a fucking 45-yard touchdown. I think that's the kind of game the Chiefs are going to have, and I think a lot of those targets are going to go to Travis Kelce because he's been due. He hasn't had a great game in about 3 or 4 weeks. He's going to have a great game this week. That's my key player on the defensive side. I think it's got to be Derek Nottie. It's got to be one of him or Jaron Reed up front because Trevor's 100% right. They're going to have to get hands on Derrick Henry early on the snap. As soon as he's getting that ball and he's 2-3 yards behind the line of scrimmage, you're going to have to at least slow him down enough to allow your corners and safeties to come down and get that additional hit and pressure on him. If they don't do that and he's only getting hit 6-7 yards into the play, motherfucker's going to eat us alive this week. And I think that's what's going to happen probably anyway. But to give themselves a fighter's chance, you're going to have to break through that shaky offensive line and give yourself a chance to slow down that monster known as Derrick John Henry.
Yeah, I mean, offensively, I can just close my eyes and line up all of our offensive players and just pick one. I think any of these guys could go off this week against that secondary.
Presidential flashcards. Everyone's
For
money.
me, it's I want to see Travis Kelce, but I'm expecting that out of him, man. I think this could be. It's between McCole and Darrell Williams. I think Darrell Williams can. I'm going to go Darrell Williams. I think the Bills made a mistake. I don't think they ran it enough against this team. Obviously, they're the most pass-heavy offense in the league. The Bills throw more than anybody. They have pretty much zero running game. And even though they got competent running backs like Zach Moss, who I think is a stud, but they don't utilize him right. I think Darrell Williams is going to eat. I think more in the passing game, like you've alluded to. I think he's going to get more involved in the passing game. I think he could have a couple receiving touchdowns. I think when things get tight in the red zone, we can have a couple dump off passes to him in the red. I just don't think they have the linebackers to tackle him. I think he's going to be a force out there. He's just a big. I think he wants to continue what he did last week. I think he's hungry. I think he's kind of like one of those, like the snowball effect. He's getting bigger and gaining more speed as he's tumbling down and collecting more snow. I think this is just one of those things where I think Darrell Williams is going to continue doing what he did, and I think he's going to have another couple touchdowns this week. And then defensively, I'm going to say Nick Bolton. I think Nick Bolton. He's our leading tackler. I think he's leading the league in tackles. I think he's gonna play a role in the not stopping Derrick Henry, but I think he's gonna have a couple hits in the backfield where he gets Derrick Henry, and I think it's just gonna be this could be a pivotal game for his career to gain some more confidence and figure out what his identity is on this defense. I like him. I think with Luan being down, that offensive line already being pretty weak. I think he can get himself a sack here. I think a couple blitz packages if we utilize him the right way, like we've watched him when he was in Mizzou. He was great at getting through that line and getting to the backfield and getting sacks and beating running backs in the backfield. And I think we're going to need him to use him with that strength to help get to Derrick Henry in the backfield, because that's the only way you're going to stop Derrick Henry is don't let him get going. So I think he's going to be a vital part of that. And I'm expecting a 6 to 7 tackle game from him, and I think he's going to have a couple big plays, and I think it'll be eye popping.
Man, all right, for the offense, like Trevor said, you can pick anybody, but. And this game particularly, I think I'm gonna go with Miko. I think Miko's I think Miko's gonna have a great game. I think he's gonna blow off. I think they're gonna have a lot of those plays where he comes
around.
Yep, and then just those. And I think he's gonna eat this week. I think he's gonna have maybe a couple touchdowns, a long receiving touchdown.
I like it
because I think the focus with the Titans is gonna be on Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. Even though Tyreek Hill is banged up, they still want to double cover him because he's still definitely on the quick plays.
Mm-hmm.
He's still
Screen
deadly.
plays,
Yeah, the screen plays. He's still deadly. So they want to have that two-man coverage. Exactly. So they want to have that two-man coverage on those. And I think them focusing too much on Tyreek and Travis Kelce is going to free up Miko. And with his speed, I think he's going to be able to get in the back and kind of burn the safeties and
like it.
Yeah. So
you forget he had that, was it a 64-yard touchdown against the Titans a couple years ago?
So I do see Miko going off on
and
this,
that was a short
week.
pass too. Patrick jumped up and threw that ball. It was like 10 yards in the air, and then took it for the next 55. So,
and then from a defender, for the defense, I'm gonna go with Frank Clark. I think Frank Clark last week I think last week he finally started. We started seeing a little bit of that Frank Clark that we were used to seeing. Though it was in the second half, I do think him having Chris Jones there, I think it's gonna help him a little bit and get to Tannehill. I do see him get 1 to 2 sacks in this game. I think Frank Clark's going to have a great game.
And to Trevor's point, if Darrell Williams has the game that he has, how crazy would it be that Derrick Henry wouldn't even be the best running back on the field? If Darrell has a game like that, I mean, he'd be the best running back on the field.
I think the Chiefs are going. I think we know that playing complementary football was a great formula, and it worked. And I think Darrell just was a great complementary piece in the running game. Granted, he didn't have that many yards, but he was efficient, and he did what we needed to do, getting those first downs and the red zone too, man. I think
this will be the first week the Chiefs since week 1 will not have a single turnover. I think this is the game where the Chiefs go in there, they don't punt, they just go in there and establish dominance on the offensive side, and I'm expecting that. I really am expecting the Chiefs to do what they need to do because even with the turnovers, they're scoring at a higher clip and a higher efficiency rating than anyone in the NFL. At 3.3 points per possession. That's almost as great as their defense has been bad. That's saying something. It's historic. So that's where I'm at right now. I think the defense takes another step up in the scoring column, but I still think that the Titans are going to be able to do enough to make this a game. Just because we have to give their offense respect too. Even when they're banged up, when you have a guy like Derrick Henry in the backfield, you always have a puncher's chance of making this game into what you want it to be. So that's where I'm at. I think that we all agree the Chiefs are going to win this game. We're going to give you guys our scoring totals tomorrow before the game starts. It is a noon kickoff, so stay alert on our full slate of picks, not just Chiefs games, but obviously everybody that's playing. We're going to give you our picks on those as well. Guys, we have one more order of business to tend to. What is it called? Hold this L. Each and every week, we finish off each and every episode with a series of L's in the world of sports, regardless if they're friendly or not friendly. We promise you, who is ever holding the L in the world of sports from us, they deserve those motherfuckers. We're going to start with Mr. Eddie Ortiz, Mr. Yo Yo Yo. Who is holding the L for you this week, and is it F1 again?
No.
Okay.
Man, I wish I could do an L, but this what I'm doing, it deserves a W just because it's something we've never seen in the world of soccer. I personally never seen it, and I don't think a lot of people have ever seen this kind of dominance. And my W is going to go to Bayern Munich. Why is it going to go to Bayern Munich? Well, in their last 9 to 10 games, they haven't lost. They played good competition because Barcelona's in here. But I'm going to read you the scorelines of each game. I'm not going to read the opponents, but I'm going to read the scorelines of their previous 9 to 10 games. Starting with 12-0, 5-0, 4-1, 3-0, 7-0, 5-0, 5-1, 4-0, and 4-0.
I'm sorry, are we talking about the Golden State Warriors or are we talking about Bayern Munich?
Bayern Munich for sure. The dominance that they've had in Europe in the past few years, it's baffling. They won the Champions League 2 years ago, but it's just crazy and hard to believe that this team is out there just destroying teams.
You could have taken that first game, the 12-0 one,
Yeah.
and just
And
spread
spread
that
it.
across them, and that's still really good soccer.
Yeah.
But what? That's one game.
That's
Holy
one game.
shit, man!
So everybody's been impressed. Think about it. Barcelona is in that list. And Barcelona is a top level team. Red Bull Leipzig is on here as well. You have Bayer Leverkusen, Benfica, which is another great team from Portugal. So you have. It's not like they're just beating anybody's. They're beating great teams, and they're not just beating them. They're destroying them. People might be like, well, it's only 3-0. Well, 3-0 in a professional soccer, and especially European soccer, is a lot.
It's a blowout.
It's yes. So, man, I wanted to do an L, but just with this, with what they're doing, with what they've done in the previous 2 months, you have to acknowledge it. You have to. Right now, I would say that they're probably the best club in the world right now. That's a lot. That's saying a lot. So, for that reason, Bayern Munich, you're going to have to hold this W.
Nice. Well, Trevor Twidwell, who is holding the L for you, and is it depressing as fuck as it normally is?
I want to throw out a W real quick, too,
There we
to
go.
Dearness Johnson. That kid, man, the story, if you guys watched that Browns-Broncos game, no one expected Dearness Johnson to go out there. I know it's a Browns, it's an AFC team that, it's a foe of ours, but I love seeing stories like that. 143 yards rushing, and I think a couple
168 total.
6.6 yards per carry. Against
The
Broncos.
fourth-ranked defense in the NFL at that point.
I mean, absolutely destroyed them single-handedly. I mean, and the guy was without a job. He was inboxing highlight
AAF
tapes. He was
teams.
inboxing highlight and DMs.
I have it right here.
Highlight tapes of himself to
Courtney Kramer on Twitter.
Semi-pro football leagues.
She was the one that was running these organizations, and she said that my favorite story about, not to steal your thunder, Trevor, but my favorite story about Dearnest, he DM'd every AAF team in 2018 asking for a tryout. Made the Orlando team, then popped off. Kid has worked his ass off. He's earned this. Of course, I saved the screenshot. This is literally the screenshot, real quick.
Yeah.
Just a little paragraph. He goes, "Hi, my name is Dearness Johnson. I'm the former running back for the University of South Florida. After finishing college at USF, I attend a training camp with the New Orleans Saints, where I have since been a free agent. I am very interested in becoming a part of the Alliance League and would love the chance to send in my highlight videos for you all to view. Thank you." I mean, that doesn't just give you just the warmth, man.
This is what sports is all about, man. The opportunity the kid got. He was
Such a
without
great
a
story.
job.
And shout out to BJ Kissel, man,
Exactly.
for Let It Fly
Man,
Media for getting that
called
story
that.
on Dearness
Yeah.
months ago.
Yep.
Months ago.
Yep. He's a talent, bro.
Go watch that.
And in the post, if you watch his post interview, because LeBron tweeted about him, and you just see his face lit up when he's like, LeBron? But that's dude, the kid, that's the
An Ohio
peak moment for
King
that kid's
as well,
life,
yeah,
bro.
yeah.
I love stories like that, and football, maybe of any sport,
Yeah.
throws guys into big opportunities
Getting
like
a
that. And
game ball, too,
and when
from
they take it and they
Stefanski.
run with it, the kid's not. If he doesn't make it with the Browns next year, he's gonna have himself a job somewhere
I ain't
else.
gonna lie. I was a little. I was
Yeah.
wiping him away when I
A
saw him
little
get the game ball,
It was
dude.
a little dusty in the room.
Yeah.
It was. I love stories like that, man. So I didn't want the show to go on without at least acknowledging the kid's performance. It was absolutely incredible.
Yes.
Dominant. You don't see that very often in sports where someone out of nowhere, outside of BJ Kissel calling it, saying that he's a talent. The kid he looked like a legitimate NFL running back, man. I hope he gets a job. If he doesn't stay with the Browns somewhere else, I want to see the kid have a career in this league. It was fun to see. But my L is going to go to Chicago Bears fans. I don't know if you guys saw that game against Aaron Rodgers just does what he does to Packers fans every single time, man. No matter if it's in Soldier Field or wherever, it doesn't matter. I'll just cut right to it. Basically, Aaron Rodgers had a play where it broke down there in the red zone. He did his thing where he scrambles around looking for a pass, looking downfield, and then he scrambles and runs for, I think it was like a 16-yard run to the end zone. He got a rushing touchdown. There was like fans flipping him off, Bears fans flipping him off, and he said the quote was.
No, he didn't supposedly. You can hear it. It's audible.
No,
It's on video.
Oh yeah. You can hear what he says, but I'm saying he said he blacked out when he saw all the middle fingers. He's like, "Fuck y'all!"
All
Like, you
my
guys-
fucking life.
Yeah,
He goes,
I own you.
I own you.
I still own you. The reason I'm giving the Bears not only just because Aaron Rodgers obviously owns them, he has, he's a part owner of them already at this point. It's obviously triggering even old players for the Bears. So recently, after that happened, obviously it triggered former Bears center Olin Kreutz.
Yeah.
He went on the radio, and this was his quote.
Yeah, Danny Perkins talked about this actually.
Yeah. I don't even know he talked about that. I read about this and I was like, I got to talk about this in the show. It's just so good. 'Cause I love triggered fans. It's fun. Especially when my guy Aaron Rodgers is triggering him. That's my guy.
Dude, he did the belt, dude, no less.
Wait, when we watched that live, what did I say? Oh, was he going to do the...
He did the
fucking
fucking
I was
belt,
so
dude.
stoked,
Yes.
man. I love that man so much. Anyways, the quote from Kreutz was, he went on radio and said this. He said, "I'd like to punch him in the face. When you see that, that's your reaction. You have won a lot of games at Soldier Field. Just because you're right, it doesn't make you right for doing it."
He mad.
Salt.
He said salt.
Fucking
Shake that
salt,
shit,
bro.
Yeah, Kreutz out here.
When guys are old, when former,
No, he was doubling it.
Former sinners are coming out of the grave to come out here and say quotes like that. Salt, bro. That's pure. He owns them, bro.
Yes.
I love it.
And
So-
Olin Kreutz, all he did was he confirmed that.
Yeah.
Because him to be that angry about this,
He said
that
you're
just
right.
proves that
Yeah,
he
he
knows.
said-
He's
he
like,
said-
fuck, this guy owns us. We're sick of that
Just
shit.
because you're right, it doesn't make you right for doing it. Are you serious?
Just because you've owned us doesn't mean you
Bro.
owned us. Like, you know what I'm saying? Just because you beat our ass
take-
every year.
yeah,
He's
so-
what, 22-5 in his career against the
Yeah.
Bears?
Yeah.
Shit like that.
Crazy, dude.
Yeah. It's like us getting mad that Peyton Manning was destroying us when he was a Bronco. Like,
I mean, we weren't mad, but like, what are you gonna do? Deny it?
Yeah, but I mean,
You know
you
what
got to
I mean? Like,
acknowledge the greatness that it was.
I don't believe what's happening. Nope. You know,
Yeah,
like, what
fuck
the fuck,
you,
man?
Peyton. I don't care if you, yeah. So
You saw it.
for that,
exactly.
the salt, not only just for Bears fans, but obviously Bears greats coming out
Yeah.
and talking about it live
Yeah.
on the radio, just showing their saltiness. Bears fans, Bears ex-players, whoever wants to talk shit on that, take your L. Do me a favor and
Hold this L. Yeah, Mr. Kreutz, I think he's feeling bad because when he had to go against Rodgers in his career, he had fucking Jay Cutler and Kyle Orton as his quarterback. So I think he actually played with Rex Grossman too, believe it or not. But
I want to punch him in the face.
I'm going to give a W. I do want to echo Trevor's sentiments about Dearness Johnson. I do want to echo those sentiments because that's how I felt the entire game. And again, I want to reemphasize that BJ Kissel from Let It Fly Media and KCSN was all over this story with Dearness Johnson beforehand. It is truly a rags to riches story, man, when it comes to what he's been able to do in his career already.
Also, he won me some money on fantasy too.
That
so
doesn't
helps.
hurt either.
Yeah.
Having actually, I don't believe in PFF, but I will say this just in the context
They're
of this
not real.
situation.
I don't believe in them.
Yeah, I'm Olin Kreutz in this situation. No, but I don't really listen to a lot of things the PFF says
Yeah,
because
yeah.
they've made up a lot of their shit. But one thing I will give credit to what they said about Dearness Johnson's performance is it actually graded out as the best performance by a running back this season.
6.5,
And that's including
6.6.
that's
Right.
including Derrick Henry's recent performance against the Bills. So I'm gonna say that's one of my favorite stories so far this year when it comes to the world of sports,
And
not
kudos
just
to
football.
Stefanski, bro.
Yes.
Stefanski schemed that
This
game
is
up
why
for
I
him
picked the
perfectly.
Browns in this game.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that I believe that no matter who the running back is, with behind that offensive line with Batonio and the fellas, you're going to get
Well, I'm a
yards.
fan of
And
Case
Dearness Johnson capitalized,
Yeah.
man. Did his thing. You have Case Keenum
Case
as your
Keenum's a
quarterback. Didn't have the
solid
starting
backup.
quarterback.
Solid backup.
Looked well, but I'm going to echo that. I want to give a W to a guy that's actually a part of the Chiefs. And it sucks because the season ended this week against the Washington football team. And I'm talking about Jody Fortson.
Man, yeah.
I'm giving him a W, not because obviously he suffered an injury. I'm giving him a W because of what he did in the time he's had this season, scoring multiple touchdowns,
Capitalized.
working his ass off to make this roster on a roster that already had both Travis Kelce, the best tight end in NFL history, with Blake Bell, also an experienced veteran that's already had a tenure here in Kansas City before, and Noah Gray, who they just drafted. Jody Fortson, an undrafted free agent who's been with the Chiefs practice squad for 3 years, does enough to get on this roster despite those other three guys here,
Made a huge
forcing
catch in
the
that game,
hand
too.
of Andy Reid to keep an almost unprecedented 4 tight end roster. And then he goes in here and performs and did what he's supposed to do. It was an absolute positive for what this team has been to this point. Has been an absolute contributor. I'm not saying the Chiefs' offense is going to falter because of it, but it is going to hurt them. Because this guy was a legitimate option. He'll
be back.
He wasn't just a fan favorite.
Yeah.
He was a legitimate option for Patrick to throw to, especially in the red zone.
He was great.
A 6'6", 245-pound frame.
That contested catch he made in that game.
And to see the support, the outpouring support from his teammates on Twitter, social media, and on the press conferences,
Yeah.
it's genuine because this guy really is somebody special, and I really believe in him, and I really hope that he gets a chance to come back and prove himself and redeem himself this next season with the Chiefs. And I hope he heals up properly, man, because an Achilles tear is rough. Yeah. That's a really rough injury to go through, and for the next 10 to 12 months, it's going to be a lot for him to get back. But I'm rooting for him, and I just wanted to hand a W out for him. We got an L to hand out though because my guys over in Denver are struggling, man. Because we're sitting here praising Dearness Johnson, the Cleveland Browns, for maybe saving their season with all these injuries they had going on. What the fuck was that the Broncos gave us this week against a decimated...
What the fuck is happening?
I mean, the Browns had guys they signed last week from DeVry University practically fucking playing out there, man. They had dudes that we have never even heard of. Like the Key and Peele's little skit of all the weird names they brought up. Those guys actually played in this game. And the Broncos still took an L. They start the season 3-0 and are now sitting at 3-4.
They're playing bums,
And I fucking told you guys that by, I think, week 13 is when the Chiefs play. I said the Broncos were going to have a losing record by that game. The Broncos already got a losing record. We're not even halfway there. So this is a beautiful thing to see. I love the shit out of this because the Broncos were sitting out here. Von Miller was talking that shit going into this game. He goes, I hope they're ready, whoever their tackle is, because I'm going to kill somebody. That didn't do shit, and I'm not trying to piss on him because he did get hurt, but it's not as bad as we thought. It was just a sprained ankle, so he'll be fine. But Von Miller talked that shit and was shit.
His old ass
so
out here.
I got to give the Broncos a solid L on this one. My people in Denver, I love some of you, most of you, probably a lot of you. But in the meantime, I got a little letter that I want to give you guys, so do me a solid and hold this L.
Let's go.
That's how we're wrapping the show up. It has been a blast being with you guys today. My dude, Grant Morse from Arrowhead Live, I cannot thank him enough for coming on here and dropping some intel, dropping some facts. I'm telling you guys, he's not only just a great guy to follow at Arrowhead Live just for Chiefs content, but he also breaks some news, man. This dude is connected. We really do appreciate everything he brings to us and everything he predicts out there, and it seems to always come to fruition. So follow him, give him a follow, guys, on Facebook and on Twitter. We will have him back on the show. I want to make an announcement real quick. A guy that is on the mailbag every single week and loves to break down things very methodically is going to be joining us next week. That is right, Mr. Shaggy Shane Williams will be joining us at the Spoken Podcast for episode 140. It only feels right. Hopefully we're sitting here breaking down and celebrating a Chiefs victory in Tennessee, in the old music city of the world, music capital of the world in Nashville, Tennessee. But in the meantime, for Trevor Twidwell, for Eddie Ortiz, Mr. Yo, for our guy Grant Morris, for the great Clay Wendler that produces all this and makes this shit into what it is, which is mostly a quality show. I'm Lance Twidwell. Episode 139 of The Spoken is finished. It's finito. It's done. It's gone. And until 140 is here, we out of this bitch.